Welcome, everybody. Good to have you with us. We are live worldwide on the Jim Masters Show Live. How are you and you and you? We hope you're having a spectacular day. And if you're not, well, guess what? This is the place live at 7 p.m. Eastern and 4 p.m. Pacific to maybe spark your day up, to reignite the excitement, because we've got an amazing guest. And also, this is the place, as we talk about, where you can find light and levity and love, or as we dubbed it just a couple of days ago when we had that Freudian slip in saying light, levity, and love, we sort of created our own in-house word here at the Jim Masters Show Live, which is lovity. That's right. We said love and levity together, didn't mean to, and then it became lovity, and everybody loves that word. You know, it seems like whatever happens with this show, as we're doing it live, people are falling in love with it, and they want me to add those elements to the show. Like, for example, your friend George Burns. When we did a nostalgic week, we had George Burns come on the show, and you guys were like, oh my God, I love George Burns. Let me take a look at George Burns. I think he's fantastic. I've always loved him. And he has become sort of like a mascot in a way, or sort of like my Ed McMahon. So there he is. He greets you and you and you and you. He says hello. He's looking at everybody. He's got his cigar, but he says, where's his cigar? So he is there. George Burns says hello. And again, he's here every night because we debuted him on a nostalgic show, and everybody said, oh my God, I love George Burns. Again, that's the 100th birthday collector's doll. That was my aunt's. And then it came down to me. My cousin had given it to me. There's your I, Jimmy Genie bottle that everybody seems to love. Austin Pendleton saw this last night, loved it. Kathy Garver loved it. And so many people love this. It's the real authentic bottle. It weighs a ton. Little secret, if you didn't know, on our other episode, when they did the I, Dreamy Genie bottle for the series, what they used for the design was an actual Jim Beam liquor bottle. That's right. A Jim Beam liquor bottle is what they used to create the shape and design of the Genie bottle. Again, Jeannie isn't here. She's away. She's been away since Father's Day with her father and her mother in Baghdad. If you remember, she was in there quarantined since March. She didn't come out because she couldn't get her hair done. So she couldn't get her hair done because she lost her powers. You know, being quarantined in a bottle since March, that could do it. She'll be back soon, so you will see her. Again, these are our cast of characters. Every professional broadcast host has their co-host. We got George, and they also have their sidekicks. There is your friend Silver that you guys fell in love with. Got him on a TV shoot when we were in Europe, in the Switzerland area, and there he is. So he says hello to all of you too, putting some smiles on your faces, light, levity, and love, or as we call it, lovity. I see lots of comments coming in already from our faithful all around the world. We do reach a global audience here on the program from all across the United States and Canada, Asia, Europe, Australia, New Zealand. So we say good evening to everybody watching right now here in these time zones. But for those down under, we say good day, good morning, and we hope you're enjoying your breakfast as you soon get ready to enter winter, as we're entering the dog days of summer here. There's your friend Jimmy. He says hello. Again, he came on the show not that long ago, and you guys said, hey, love him, keep him on the show. So there's somebody to put a smile on your face, right? If you're having a rough day, these casts of characters, they're actually props, but we're not going to tell them that because they're part of our circle of levity. They're our friends, so we won't tell them that. That's just our secret. And of course, as you know, we go Hollywood here on this show. We spare no expense, on the Jim Masters Show Live. Again, as you know, I do this professionally as a television, radio host, journalist, actor, voiceover artist, stage MC, writer, producer, you name it. We do it all, and launched this show about 8 weeks ago, and it's been extraordinary. We are booked with guests just about now to the end of August, and here it is still only June. It has been extraordinary, and I got to thank every single one of you for sharing the links, posting the links, sharing the promos, having watch parties, subscribing to and liking and sharing the YouTube page where we archive all these shows, the YouTube channel at Jim Masters TV, liking the fan page on Facebook at Jim Masters TV, and also on Twitter and Instagram at Jim Masters TV. But you've been telling everybody about this series, 7 p.m. Eastern live, 4 p.m. Pacific. Every single night we do this show. That's right. Every single night with great guests. And then some nights when we don't have a guest, we take you on location. We took you to the Netherlands. We took you to the Brady Bunch house in California. We took you to Red Rocks. We take you all over as well. And we do food segments, music segments, light and levity, inspiration, you name it. It's an entertainment lifestyle talk show. So it's a little of something for everybody. And speaking of that, lights, camera, action. We always do this in the beginning. We go a little Hollywood on the Jim Masters Show Live. So lights, camera, and action. And now we're beginning the show. I hope you guys are doing well today. I hope you've had a good day. I hope, things are good for you as we're sort of in hump day here. It's Wednesday, so it's the middle of the week. And what are you guys up to these days? Are you outdoors gardening? We were doing a walk along the coast. It's absolutely beautiful. A little humid today, a little hot weather, but it's nice. Hey, we'll take that over a snowstorm or any other weather event that could possibly happen. So it is summer, and you sort of expect that. But hope wherever you are around the world, you're having a good day, and that the next hour or so that we have here to share together on the Jim Masters Show Live provides some inspiration, some positivity, some empowerment, as well, again, as the light and the levity and the love, or as we call it, lovity, that we try to deliver every single night. We have great inspirational conversations, deep conversations. We have lots of humor, lots of levity. And our guests are from all walks of life, not just from television and music and film and, Hollywood and New York and the arts and everything, but we have guests from all walks of life who have stories to tell and who want to share them with me and you here on the show. So welcome to the show, everybody. It's good to have you with us as we broadcast worldwide live. And let's check out some of our faithful and some of the great comments that are coming in, as we always like to check in with our faithful audience from around the world first. And let's see, we have Margie Inman. Hi, Jim. I always love being here with you. Why? Because it's always happy trails of fun and laughter with inspirational guests. Thank you, Jim. You always make us have a great day. You are my Mr. Sunshine. Margie, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. That is wonderful, and that is beautiful. And again, that moves me when we get comments like that. And we've been getting a lot of comments like that lately. And that's absolutely beautiful. Barbara Conrad, who is watching from Indiana, from the Midwest, we say, good to have you with us too, Barbara. Thank you for joining us. You're here every night, and we appreciate that loyalty. That's beautiful. And Linda Odell, hello from sunny Florida. Hope you're doing well. We have family in Florida, and we haven't been able to get down there yet to see them. We hope to be able to do that soon. Once things settle down. And there's a lot of TV shoots too. I'm supposed to be in Florida on a TV shoot, and also San Antonio and also Ireland, but that's been sort of paused a little bit in the interim. So hopefully we'll get down there to do that TV shoot in Boca Raton, and then we'll see our family as well. So it's good to see you, Linda, in beautiful Florida. And Avril Britton, hi from Hampshire in the United Kingdom. You waited up, Jim. It's a very, very hot day there as well. I know you waited up because it's pretty late there right now, right? Is it about 10 after 1 a.m.? I know it is in Holland, where Willie is. Our friend Willie, who watches every night from the Netherlands, it's about 1 a.m. and we really appreciate her doing that. She takes naps in the day so she can wake up in time, grab a snack, wake up at 1 a.m. in Holland, in the Netherlands, just to watch this show. Eileen Barker watches it in the morning, which is what it is right now in Australia. So it's morning down under. She watches and she's there as well. I see her. She's going to be doing some shopping. Good to see you, Avril. And again, in Hampshire, the United Kingdom, as I mentioned, my father's side of the family, the Masters side, I'm the fifth James. They hail from Yorkshire, England. So we've got English in our blood on dad's side, English and Irish on dad's side, and English, Swedish, and French on mom's side. And if you do your DNA and you go deeper, who knows, you can have other things as well. But we know that big Great Britain connection, as well as Sweden and also France. It's good to see you there in the United Kingdom, Avril. Thank you for joining us every night as you have been. Martha Oliver Swartz in Michigan. Hi, Jimmy Coco Pop. It's so great to have you as well. And I hope you are sending blessings to you and your family. Martha, we know there was a loss in the family, and we deeply moved that you've shared that. And again, blessings to you and your family. And I'm glad we had an opportunity to converse with your brother, Martin. It was wonderful, that episode where he was on, remember, just a couple of weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago. So we're sending love and light to you and your family at this very difficult time. Keep the faith, keep his memory. I know it's going to be difficult, but we're all thinking about you here at the show. Martha, you and your entire family, blessings to you guys. And again, I'm glad we crossed paths with your brother, Martin, and he was on the show. I'm glad that happened. It was a very beautiful person. He was a really funny guy too, a very beautiful person. So we send you light and love from all of us here, Martha. And Willie in Holland, she sends us some of those tulips, and hey, we've got the tulips for you too. The ones that we got on that TV shoot in the Netherlands there for you, Willie. There you go. I leave them. This was just for that one night, but I leave them here on our set, because I know when you pop in, you want to see them. Thank you very much for yours there in beautiful Holland as you watch. I hope you took your nap today and you got some sleep. And Eileen in Australia, if I recall correctly, Midlands, east of Perth in Western Australia. There you are. And are you having breakfast? Are you having the puffed wheat again with the water? Hi, Jim. What to do today? Go shopping with my support worker. It is 10 Celsius this morning. Winter started June 1st. I know we're going into summer. You're going into winter. Our water rotates this way. I think your water rotates that way from what I heard. And Ripper, I love that when you were on the other night and I had actress Clara Francesca on, and she's originally from Melbourne and she's a New York City actress. And we had a delightful show, and you said Ripper. And Clara knew exactly what you were talking about coming from Australia. Have a ripper of a time, like a fantastic time, like a bloody good time. So we've incorporated those two words now that we created, lovity, and we use Ripper on this show as well, and everybody loves it, and that's cool. So good to see you as well there in Australia, Eileen as well. Good afternoon and good evening, Ernestine Webb in North Carolina. It is a pleasure to have you with us as well. I hope you and yours are doing well. Again, I still love that shot you have there on the boat there in North Carolina. Hope everything is going well. Another dear friend, our wonderful friend June Rachelson Aspa in New York City. Hiya. You and I have been chatting pretty much most of the day. And good to see you. Hi to Jerry and everybody, my dear friend. And Martha's saying hi, and everybody says, we all say hi to each other, and then they all say hi to each other as well. It's amazing. Hello again from United Kingdom. I love this show. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. The feedback I've been getting has been amazing from viewers who just tune in and watch and have fallen in love with it and follow it. And then they tell everybody, that's how things work. This show is kind of like a plant, like a seed you put in the ground. You put the seed, and I'm a gardener. That's why I'm using that analogy, green thumb. You put the seed in the ground, and then you water it, and then you fertilize it. And when the plant starts coming up, you start nurturing it and tweaking it, and you start growing it and expanding. And then you invite people and more people to come see this beautiful flower or tree or plant or bush, whatever it is that you originally planted from seed. So that's what this show is. As we continue to grow and expand, it's been extraordinary. We have some incredible things that are happening behind the scenes with the show that I'm going to be telling you about soon. Some really cool things that are happening. But it's when I hear comments like that you love the show, that just motivates me more to continue to create and innovate and grow it even more. So thank you very much there in the beautiful United Kingdom. I'm glad you love the show. And I hear that so much from industry folk, colleagues of mine that are watching that have been really enjoying it as well. And everybody says hello. And Karen Ianni, hello, everybody. Karen in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Good to have you in good old Pittsburgh. Hope you're doing well. Say hello to your mom. Hope she's doing well as well. And we see lots of names here. David Acamando is here. And who else is here? Christopher Grube, I believe. Grube. Not sure how you pronounce that one. I'll go with Grube. But good to see everybody here. And let's see. Ernestine says, the granddaughter is watching with me. She says, hi, Jim. She is 6 years old. 6 years old. And what is your granddaughter's name? If you say your granddaughter, if you put another comment in there, because we got tons of comments. If you put another comment in and you say your granddaughter's name, I will say hello to your granddaughter. She's only 6 years old. That's cute. So Ernestine, when you have a moment, type her name in, and I will say a personal hello to your beautiful granddaughter. And June Rachelson Osmus says, hi. And let's see. Oh, Chef Pierre Daniel. How are you, my friend, Chef? I've known you for years when I used to do a radio show on iHeartRadio. And we used to go sample your fantastic food in New Haven, Connecticut, at Yale and some of the other great places you've been affiliated with. I hope you're doing well. Good to see you, my friend. And hopefully we'll see you again soon and break bread and pour some wine again real soon. We're here every night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific with the Jim Masters Show live. Buff, Chef Pierre. Make sure that you tell all your friends as well. And everybody's saying hello to everybody. And Kathleen Walker in New York City, the Queen of Queens. Hi, Jim, and hi, all. Good to see you as well. Willie in Holland says, no naps today. She didn't get her nap in today. So she's been wide awake all day long and has stayed up just to watch our show, which is cool and extraordinary. Christine Fairwood in Connecticut says hello to everybody. Renee Oscom, beautiful Renee in Iowa, says hello. And hello to your dad as well. And a ton of people here today. This is fantastic. Hope everybody is doing well. And Margie says, hi, everyone. Lovely. And lovety, everyone. Yes, that's our word, lovety, here at the show. And love you. Tried getting more of your shows, so hope they're coming by. Seeds planted are abundant to give back abundance. Fun, ripper show. Absolutely. Her name is Savannah. Well, we say hello. If Savannah is watching, we say Jim Masters, your host, says hello. And Jimmy says hello to Savannah, 6-year-old Savannah. And also Silver says hello to Savannah. There you go. It's good to see you, Savannah, as well. Ernestine, thanks for joining us. It's cute to have Savannah with us, only 6 years old. So we all say hello. George and Jeannie say hello as well. And again, hello from Great Britain, and you as well, and comments on and on and on. Thanks for all these great comments, everybody. It's terrific to have you with us, and I hope your day is going well. We've got a wonderful guest here now that we've done all the introductions and all the welcomes and so much more, and you can keep posting. We'll check all those messages and comments later. And again, I just want to thank you. We've been getting so many comments all day long. I get private messages, Facebook messages from people telling me how much they love this show, and that means a great deal to me. I have just keep spreading the word about the show. Tell your friends, share the links, subscribe to the YouTube channel at Jim Masters TV, like the Facebook page, all those things that everybody tells you to do. But it really does help get the word out. So as we continue here on our Wednesday Hump Day episode, we've got an amazing guest, somebody who is a true ray of sunshine, somebody who's full of passion, somebody who is a true creative artist, somebody who really loves life and loves to share it through his work. Somebody who has spent a good deal of his life trying to provide hope and inspiration, trying to create productions that have meaning, that inspire, that connect us all, make us stop and think. He is a renowned screenwriter as well as playwright and writer, and has known for a lot of incredible productions that make you think, that make you stop and think about life and about relationships and about how we treat each other and about how we should support each other in so many different ways. And he's very excited to be here, actually, and we really appreciate that. We've been chatting. We were chatting just before the show, and of course, getting things prepared. We were chatting, and he was telling you about some of the amazing productions that he's been responsible for, as well as some of the cool things, even during this sort of pandemic situation, some of these cool things that he's been working on that he's going to be sharing with us on this broadcast right now. So as you can see on the bottom of the screen there, our very special guest is Bob Stewart. And Bob is, he really is somebody of a great spirit. And if this picture right there doesn't put a smile on your face, I mean, look at that smile. Look at that expression. Look at those cool round rimmed glasses. Aren't they cool? Bob Stewart is a playwright and screenwriter, and his one-man comedy, Jesus in a Beehive, The Last Temptation of Mitchell Pantene, was Pick of the Week by the New York Times. Also, his A Memory Play, Workshop Theater Company's 2008-2009 main stage season, Best of the Festival win at the Midtown International Theater Festival. His modern tragedy, American Inheritance, an earlier draft of American Inheritance, was a finalist at the Kennedy Center's New American Plays, and recently an industry reading with Tom Wopat. Of course, you remember Tom Wopat from Dukes of Hazzard and so many other great specials, as well as Angelica Page, directed by the Virginia Repertory Theater's artistic director, Nathaniel Shaw, Tony Award winner, Michael Rubenstein, and also currently helping by shopping it around for regional and London productions. Other full lengths have been involved, names like All You Can Eat, play and screen adaptation, and a con artist comedy, Bone to Pick. Bob's Chicken and Egg Soup was produced in New York City, Rhode Island, Kentucky, Georgia, New Jersey, as well. Bethesda and Fabulous Darshan were in the Workshop Theater's 2011 season in New York City. Now, Fabulous Darshan was chosen as one of the top plays of the year by Indie Theater Now. We're going to talk about all of this and so much more. It was also a fundraiser reading for Schenectady Light Opera, which I love because that's really helping causes and organizations that give back through their artistic creativity. And that was with the original New York City cast, and recently as well in the Celebration Theater's reading series in Los Angeles. His latest full-length production, Carol of Carol Gardens, chosen by 2018's Broadway Con reading series, chosen in 2019 for development by the Claremont Theater's 2019 Water and Clay Playwriting Retreat in Florida, and the Depot's 2019 New Play Reading Series in Hampton, Connecticut. Carol of Carol Gardens was also an AEA Equity Reading with Tony winner Karen Zembia, and in the lead by Tony winner producers Michael Rubenstein, Robin Milling, and Stephanie Rosenberg in June 2019 in New York City. Bob is presently just had a reading of his and writing partner Jeff Zemansky's musical, The Untitled 1969 Musical Project in Bethel, New York, a musical retelling of the epic concert in August of 1969. That work in progress that got a standing ovation. Producers are presently reviewing its prospects too, which is exciting. And Bob and Jeff are presently working on an epic theater piece for 8 actors that span over 8 centuries of gay men's lives in New York City called Eliot's New York Stories, Immortal, Illegal, Illicit, 1897 to the present. They're currently searching for a theater company to collaborate with as well. And that's going to be fascinating. His work is really, really interesting. It really gets you thinking about life, and it leaves a lasting impression on you. And he puts his heart and soul into everything he does. And again, that's why he's such an extraordinary screenwriter and playwright. And we're so excited to have him here. Let me just show you a couple of other cool photos that we have here as well that we were just talking about. And some really cool shots here. That is Bob. And then here's some shots from some of the works too, which we'll talk about. There's Jesus in a beehive. Some other shots of some of the performers as well. And crew. Now we were talking about this as well, which we were just mentioning just seconds ago, which is Fabulous Darshan by Bob Stewart, directed by Susan. And that's a fantastic production, and he's very proud of that. And we'll be talking about that in just a second as well. And just a couple more here to show you of some of the productions over the years as well. There's another one, and another one. And I'm going to show you a little video here too, and then we'll welcome Bob to the show. And this is a little video that they produced just explaining specifically Fabulous Darshan and some of the fantastic, incredible storyline to that play and that production. So let's take a look at that right now and enjoy. And then we will be back in just a second, and we welcome our very special guest, Bob Stewart, to the show. Here's that clip.
I'm Bob Stewart, and I'm a writer and a playwright, and I'm the author of Fabulous Darshan. Go! 5, 6, 7, 8! Well, the reason why I wrote the play, I was in my 40s, and I was managing an off-Broadway theater, and I had a lot of young ushers. And a couple of the young men, they were gay, and I would tell them, like, oh, don't be mean, don't do that, or that's going to come back and bite you. And so I realized I had that in my life too. An older actor, this wonderful Broadway star, and he was my mentor. And I realized as a young gay person how important that was for me. I started writing this play back in 2006, I believe, and I knew I wanted Ganesh in it, and I knew I wanted to be semi-autobiographical with my memories of when I was a young man here. And I was working on it, and I came back that day to tell John, the first draft had gone well, my partner John. I said, I'm excited. And he said, you'll never believe it. The Hare Krishna ashram around the corner has a guru, who I rarely see. And he walks into my shop today with a little Ganesha and says, happy birthday, it's Ganesha's birthday. You started your play on Ganesha's birthday. I guess I classify Darshan first and foremost a comedy. It's a loving comedy. A pretty well established Broadway actor has befriended a young man in dire need of leadership, of an adult person showing him the way. And Ken has become this. It's basically about how they grow with each other. I guess the message would be, as corny as it is, we only got each other. We only have each other. And it's just old school, just love one another. And it's also, for me, a tribute to a friend who I got to sort of watch and create my version, but to say thank you. Thank you. Do you know what you did when you befriended a hyper 22-year-old boy in New York City? That's why I wrote
it. Really amazing, isn't it? And now let's welcome our very special guest, Bob Stewart. How are you, Bob?
Hey, Jim. How are you?
Fantastic, fantastic. And a little birdie whispered into my ear that you're a big fan of our show, and we thank you, Bob. That's great to hear.
I just love, I'm a showbiz junkie. And so when anyone can just tell me anything about any classic piece of theater, like I stepped on Jason Robarb's foot doing Long Day's Journey in the Night. He almost beat me up. I love that stuff. And it's the art I know, because I know the books, you read the plays, you've seen the videos. It's usually the backstage personalities, how a company becomes a company, and also those moments when you realize the company you're with is a hit.
Right.
And how that swoons all the grievances away. And a group of actors bond like they've never bonded before.
Right, exactly.
And it's usually with those great pieces of theater that get people on their feet and move them in a good way, you know. And I love so many great stories. I loved Austin Pendleton. I just love him, period. Yeah. And he's just full of stories. And he's such a bright, smart theater person, you know.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad he's still with us doing theater, you know.
That's right. That's right. Quite a range. I mean, last week we had Kathy Garver with us, who was in the 10 Commandments and played Sissy on Family Affair.
Wow.
So, absolutely amazing, right? So, but thanks for tuning in and for your kind comments about the show too, because it is about light and levity and love, or as we deem it, levity, and trying to put smiles on people's faces while doing this show. Because I created it about eight weeks ago, and it's just been a true blessing and joy, and all the response from everybody has really touched my heart as well.
Well, I got to say, you got a great voice. I heard you before I saw you. And I was like, because of your career. And I was like, this guy has a great voice. And you do. And also you have a lovely interview style. Like you said, it's a conversation. It's not an interview. And that I adore. And you usually get the best information. You get the deepest information about the person you're talking with, you know. So.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. It's and that's what it is. It's a conversation, not an interview as well. And so happy that you can join us. I know you've been excited about it. I have as well. And just in digging deep into the body of work, spectacular productions you've been involved in, that you've created and that you're continuing to create. Going back a little bit further, you were born in Kentucky, but you're part of a military family, and you've traveled all around Georgia and Alaska and here, there, everywhere. Was there any sense early on in your youth with maybe other family members that were creative or artistic or entertainers that sort of sparked this interest or recognized this interest that you had early on?
Well, oddly enough, it was my older sister. I had two older brothers, two older sisters, and a little brother. So I'm next to the end. But my next to oldest sister was very popular in high school. And she wasn't like you would think she was. She like knew all the potheads, and she knew all the straight A students. She was in drama, and she did The Night of January 16th by Anne Rand, When the Audience Chooses the Play. And I thought I was going to manage her career. I was in fourth grade, and I thought, wow, she's so talented. Right. I really should do something, you know, I'll manage her career. And then I had no idea. In 10th grade in a brand new modern high school in Georgia, for an English credit, you could get drama. And I went in and I knew within 3 days, this was where I was going to be. And I remember telling people, and they're like, really? You haven't even auditioned for anything? I said, I'm going to be in this. This is where I'm supposed to be. And from that, and I bossed everybody around for 3 years in that drama club. I was Bob Fosse. I was creating them in my mind. I was the Michael Bennett in my head. And they all we'd basically say, shut up, Bob. We're going to do it our way. But I had a lovely time in that high school and learned a great deal. And it got me, God bless it, a drama teacher. My junior year had barely met me, but she knew I'd talk her ear off about theater. And in Georgia, they had something called Governor's Honors. Mm-hmm. They would pick the best in English, math, science, and drama was considered part of English and art. And you would have to audition on a school level. And then one was chosen, and then they sent you to county, and you had to audition again. One was chosen, then they sent you to state. And if you win that, between my junior and senior year, I got to go to an old-fashioned Magnolia Field campus called Wesleyan College in Mid, Georgia. And for that summer, I got to do drama all day. But the math got to do high math. The English got to do literature. The stuff that was open to, we had, as students there, they were like, would you like to learn about women in the Bible? Would you like to learn political about the Middle East? they were just classes we could take. And I did theater all day. And some guy from North Carolina School of the Arts came down with a big display and said, this is, you kids look talented. You could audition. And I went home that summer and asked my mom and dad, and we're from a large family, working class. They couldn't afford it. I even heard them talking about how heartbreaking it was. They couldn't afford it. But in a weird way, they decided to do that year. And suddenly we were open to all these grants. And so I auditioned for the school in dance and I got in, and I was there and got my BFA from there. And from there, I just started working. I had great people around me. Terrence Mann was in a class ahead of me. 4 years behind me was Joe Mantello, the great Broadway director. Peter Hedges, the great writer of About a Boy, and Gilbert Grape was a couple years behind me. It was just a lovely, creative place to be. It taught you competition, and it taught you how to be an artist. And I loved every minute of it.
And did you know what direction you wanted to go into in terms of like the type of product, the type of genres that really interested you? Did you right off the bat?
Well, I was there in dance, but I only hung out with drama, with actors, to the point that the dean of drama was like, I really need to see you perform sometime this year. I'm like, I'm not in your class. They nicknamed me Broadway Bob. I knew all the Broadway choreographers. I had books on them. And through some weird luck, Nicole Fosse was in the same year I was. She was in high school. I was in college. And I remember I was in the cafeteria and she was sitting there with her mother. And if you don't know who her mother is Gwen Verdon. Her father is Bob Fosse.
Yes.
Now, none of the kids recognized Gwen Verdon. None of my peers. I almost dropped the tray and had to say, excuse me, I beg your pardon. And Nicole looked extremely uncomfortable through the whole thing because, she was raised on this. I said, are you Gwen Verdon? She said, yes. And so for Nicole and I were so many productions together, I would see Gwen a lot.
Right.
And she would pop in almost like a magical fairy. And she was always kind to me. And me and Nicole became dear friends doing La Safide. And doing Nutcracker. I think I was Mother Ginger in a gigantic skirt and a gigantic fan. And she was one of the little boys who came out from under my skirt. Stepping on because I had gigantic stilts and they were all under my skirt. But it was, she was lovely. During my senior year, Gwen saw me do a dance performance and she did nothing but brag about it in front of my mother. And my mother hawked the house to get me to college. She hook or crook to keep me in college. And she was so pleased to have in front of her, Gwen Verdon say, oh, your son was amazing. And then drag Bob Fosse over and say, and I was like, I had to leave. It was Bob Fosse. I had nothing to say. I was like, and my mother had only seen 2 movies in 100 years. And one of them was All That Jazz because I was going to school I said, you know who Bob Fosse is? So the first thing she says is, you look like Roy Scheiber. You look like the actor. I said, we got to go, Mom. Bye. And I think I walked into a closet. I just had to get away from Bob Fosse. But
were you in awe of him?
Very much. I mean, he was a Michael Bennett. He was a creator. I literally was an actor who was dancing, and I wanted to dance to go into the chorus to be a choreographer director. I was going into that big open space. I was raised on Sondheim, who was raised on Hammerstein, really theatrical pieces, like Pippin was. That was the first show I ever saw, ever. I had no idea that when I saw a straight play and no one talked to me, I got very confused. The first 3 shows I saw were Pippin, Hair, and Godspell. And they do nothing but break the fourth wall. And so in my work, I break the fourth wall a lot. I demand the audience who are there that night feel something special that is uniquely about that night. And I recently saw the last revival of Pippin, and they did the same thing. I mean,
you saw it with Lucy Arnaz?
Oh, well, I did it. I saw it with the national tour. A friend of mine invested in it, and I was friends with Michael Rubenstein. He said, fly out. It's my birthday party. We'll watch it at the Pantages. Now, that's so Hollywood, right? I said, sure. But what happened, Lucy had stepped out, and Andrew Martin came back in. The original Pippin came in. John Rubinstein, who played Pippin, was playing the father. And I got to tell you, first of all, it was a beautifully directed show. It's Pippin. It's one of the most entertaining. Fosse says, everyone can die. You better just be entertaining at it. And that production had that. And I do remember the minute the downbeat happened, that boom, boo-doo-doo, the place started screaming from the back of the Pantages. And the curtain went up, and we never stopped. Andrea Martin, in the middle of, how she gets picked up and she does the trapeze? Right. She came down. I led the standing ovation to the Pantages. And I mean, I was like, she's 70. And you saw that. That was just a stunning piece of awesomeness. And the audience was on their feet. And you could see the Pippin cast grinning because they were all at a pause. And, you can interact with the audience. That's and she finally said, shut up, sit down. I got some more verses. And especially you. And I was like the third row. Like she knew I did it. But that I'd love the theater invite you in. I mean, all of that did. So I very much love the cabarets, the stuff that bring you immediately into the space. And I write very much like that. I don't think I have one play that just is a fourth wall play. Everything includes the audience. But that's why I loved it. And also Gwen Verdon was an angel. She was always kind to me. Can I tell this story? I don't know. I was one night. Do I have time to tell this?
Oh, absolutely.
One night I was in a studio alone. I had a big fedora hat, and I loved Fosse, but I was taking choreography classes, theme and variation. So they wouldn't let me do Broadway. I had to do a theme. So I'm thinking up the 8 counts with the sexy saxophone music. It's 9:30 at night. It's raining. There's a knock on the studio door. And I have this big, gigantic book called Broadway Dancers. Everyone's in it. Carol Haney, Gwen Verdon, Donna McKegney, everybody. And who's at the door is Gwen. And she was just walking the studios. Nicole had gone to bed. And she tapped and she went, hi, Bob. And I brought her in and she saw the hat and she sat with that book. And she just basically realized she was a part of all that history. There's a Michael Kidd. I was doing the tap dance noises and singing in the rain. Me and Carol Haney were in an inch of water in a tin pan in a studio to make Gene Kelly tap dance in the rain. When Michael Kidd called me to do Can, and she just went through the book. It was almost like sitting at the lap at like a king telling you a great story, or a queen. And I just sat as she turned each page and she pointed out, and she just was always supportive and sweet. And I will always love that about her, and it was lovely to see the Fosse Verdon, and they got her.
Right.
They got her. In fact, I learned more things about her. I knew things Nicole had told me because we were family. We told good and bad stuff, about our folks. So I knew some of it, but I didn't know all of it. But those little people telling you go,
right?
They jokingly named me Broadway Bob. All these ballet dancers are going to ABT. They were going into Alvin Ailey. I wanted to go to Broadway. By the way, all my friends who went into ballet went to Broadway. And they were all quite good. But they nicknamed me Broadway Bob like it was an insult, and I was like, "This is not an insult. I love this medium." I said, "Yeah. Where else can you tell a story of people on auditioning for a musical?
Right.
Where else could you talk about a man who lives off a tradition and then watch him break every tradition for the love of his daughters? Mm-hmm. Where else could you have Ben Vereen, with a bunch of flying? It was a magical place. And also you could talk big ideas.
Right.
I remember seeing The Real Thing with Jeremy Irons and Glenn Close and Peter Gallagher and Christine Baranski. and being blown away about how adult it was. I was in my 20s, so it was really adult for me. I had to read it years later and go, this is really adult, you know? And I loved them. I mean, I just went with the story. It was a Mike Nichols production that year. And I'm one of those theater nuts. I actually, one of the first things I saw in New York was Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Someone gave me a free ticket, and this guy had never heard of August Wilson. And I was so impressed. First of all, there's moments when they have to play music. They're recording a song, and all these wonderful characters pick up a saxophone, and they're 5, 6, 7, and they play. And I'm like, God, this must have been so hard to cast. They've got to play. No, it was a click track. Those were actors. They were well rehearsed. That was recorded. Like, I didn't know any of that. I was like, wow, these guys are really good. But I'd seen Fences the year it came in, the first preview. And my father and me had that relationship. I love my father. He's passed away, but we were very adversarial. But there's a point that he just said, go with God and, follow your dream. But I had that universal father. The night after it opened, he was in a thing called the phone booth. And I don't even know why there was one next to his theater. And it's like 10 in the morning. I'm walking by the phone booth and I see it's him on the phone, and I knew it was a hit. And I went up and banged on it and said, hi, I'm Bob Stewart, and I saw Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and I love Fences, and my father just had a relationship just like you like Fences. And I remember he was on the phone, and he slowly put his knee up against the door of the phone booth in fear that I was going to come in. I was like, well, I'll let you go. You're a great writer. I look forward to hearing more things from you. Bye. And stroll down the street. And I don't know if he has a memory of some crazy little white boy banging on putting his life in danger, praising him for Fences. But that's my memory of him. And also I followed his career. I mean, there's stuff I was telling you earlier about New York Elliott story, something big you leave behind. Angels in America, or The Inheritance that recently came here, that you leave a body, a large work behind, a long day's journey or something. And I was always fascinated in that. And I that's what he left behind. He did.
Right.
The fact that Denzel said he was going to make a movie of every one of his plays. That's 1901.
It's amazing.
Till same area, and I was just like, so I was always in love with that part. And I was dancing for years, and then I lost my kneecap at 27.
Really?
I had to reinvent myself. I had no skills but theater. I had an equity card, and the dancing wasn't getting me in the door. So a friend of mine said, you want to house manage a little theater called Provincetown Playhouse. And I said, I'm not sure what that means. He goes, tear tickets, count them, give out playbills, clean up afterwards. And the second show in there was Vampire Lesbians of Sodom by Charles Busch that ran for 5 years. So I got to watch Charles Busch work.
You get to see so many,
8 shows a week. What
do you consider your big break? When was that, and what was it? Meeting Bob, Fosse, was that at the start of the big break for you? When do you really see as the big break?
I started to hear back. I think when I did Fabulous Darshan, the thing about doing indie theater, what they call off Broadway, but we renamed it indie to sound cool. And I see a lot of indie theater and I love it, but we were getting standing ovations.
Right.
And I mean, it ended with the kids doing the showgirls dance. This boy having this big emotional breakthrough as showgirls is playing on a tape. He's left behind by his mentor, and they say, you got to dance to crap before you dance to good stuff. And the kid gets up to learn the dance along with the characters, who are reading a letter from the other side of the coast. And it ended very show businessy, but he was in tears and the audience was, and they were on their feet. And Martin didn't, God bless him, came in the second preview and wrote, he always writes lovely reviews. He's a positive man, but he was beside himself with this. Around the Tony Award time, he said, I have a lot of plays in indie theater now. If one would be nominated for a Tony, may I put a Bob Stewart's Fabulous Darshan? And that was the one about the older actor, Ken Page, the African-American actor from Ain't Misbehavin' and Cats, We did a tour of Damn Yankees together with Dick Van Dyke. I was a dancer.
Dick Van Dyke. Wow.
Yes.
What was it like working with him?
Amazing.
Yeah.
He's very.
One of my favorites.
He is. You don't learn a lot about Dan Van Dyke.
He's much more reserved than people assume, right?
And I got that probably funnier off stage than he was on, and he was funny on stage. He could do bits just for you. You'd be sitting in the wings, just kind of waiting in your baseball uniform to do a big number, and he'd come off and do a pratfall that would have you on the floor. And then he was just he was a complete thorough professional.
Yeah.
I was a bit of awe of him. The neatest thing was at the end of the run, we were the same size. He's a tall man. And
he is.
He was tall. They hired tall dancers. And I'm 6'2". And for the first time in my life, I wasn't in the back row of a bunch of dancers who were 5'8". The choreographer said, "Oh, Bob, you be center." I had guys who were 6'5" around me. So I was the cute little small dancer. And at the end of the run, Dick Van Dyke gave me his Applegate. Applegate, is that the Satan character? His jacket had red and had a calling card that was sequined that went inside that he played Applegate, the Satan. And he said, "Would you like this suit?" And I still have it.
Wow.
And I adored him. And him and Ken Page would do the best Oliver Hardy. Who's the Hardy? Stanley Oliver's Stanley.
You're talking about Laurel and Hardy, and he did Stan Laurel,
and
he was spot on.
Hardy, and they would do bits together. Spot
on. I believe that in an interview I saw with Dick Van Dyke, Stan Laurel is an idol of Dick Van Dyke's for years. Yeah, and I think Fred Astaire as well.
Yeah, the neatest thing also is it originated out of Atlanta. And the guy who played the old Joe, I don't know if you know Damn Yankee, there's an old Joe, the devil gives him permission, he becomes young Joe. That was Donnie Most from Happy Days.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, he was young Joe. But old Joe was Dick Van Dyke's old improv buddy. When they were in New York, before he got Bye Bye Birdie, before he got anything. And so it was like old home week. He could have been happier.
Yeah,
and more relaxed, and he was lovely, and we'd fly to gigs, and suddenly he would put on a skirt and bring the coffee tray down the aisle and become a stewardess to make sure we were all okay. He said that because we were in the lower class seats, but he would just entertain you, and the plane would just be in awe, like, is that Dick Van Dyke? And of course, his legacy. You can't beat that, and he was a kind man and a thorough professional. And that's what I got.
And still going strong. Him and Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks and Norman Lear. All of them are still
over 90.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
And, I'm like, you know what? And he said yoga. He told me a great story about Julie Andrews. He told me some great stories about Ronald Reagan, but I won't repeat them here because I don't want.
And Julie Andrews was the Mary Poppins when they were.
He told them. He said, "I learned protein drinks from Julie Andrews." He said after we'd be doing Mary Poppins, and around 3:00, I'm dragging, and she's like, "Oh, la 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 la," and she said, "Protein drinks, darling, protein drinks." The only thing he did tell me that she was from Broadway and she had a mouth. She had a Broadway mouth on her, and you can't cuss on a Disney studio. So after I think they were doing Step in Time or something, and there was a moment when she had to do a lot of spins, and a couple F-bombs, F-bomb this, F-bomb that.
You wouldn't expect that.
Sorry, guys. Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. And she rarely used them, but he said, Mr. Disney had to come down to the set and explain that there's so many other words we can use. And of course, she's from Broadway. I mean, the girl's been on she was 12.
And the way she probably said those words with that beautiful British accent, it didn't sound as harsh or strong.
And she was blaming herself like, "Oh, blanket, I messed that up. Oh, I'm such a blanket, blankety blank." And you would expect that from another chorus dancer. But he told me that. But I love that he just said Julie would just teach him how to keep his energy up.
Yeah.
He said he learned a lot. She had learned a lot from doing My Fair Lady. And he told me like some great My Fair Lady stories about Rex Harrison. I was like, oh, that's great dirt. Oh, I love this. But Julie Andrews came out on top. So that was great at the end of the story. But he was a loving man and very kind. And I was honored to work with him. I doubt if he'd remember who I am, but he was just lovely. It was a summer stock tour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. So tell us about how you've been surviving what we've all been going through the last couple of months, Bob. I mean, have you been innovative, creating, producing? Tell us about the way you've been going, because we all have different ways we've had to be pivoting and flexible, and everything's upside down and brand new. So what have you been doing, Bob?
Well,
how many closets have you cleaned and reorganized?
My husband and I both just shut down on March 3rd. We didn't, no more going out. We're done.
That's it. Yeah.
And I just said, and also I had Christmas Eve, I had a new hip. The reason why my knee hurt and I had to stop dancing at 27 wasn't my knee. It was my hip.
The hip.
The hip was born too high. The first day out on a walker, I had no knee pain and I cried. And I have no knee pain for the first time since I was 22 years old. And so I was in bed getting fat from Christmas Eve till about the end of January. And I started to walk. I went out one time and then the epidemic started. And we were about to do a reading of Carol of Carol Gardens. We had done mini readings. And the last one we had done was very successful, but they wanted to see more cuts. Michael Rubenstein and Robin Milling were like, this is it. This is the buzz, Bob. Do you hear the buzz? It's in the room. So just cut this. And so we were about to do that, but it couldn't happen. And so we're going to do a Zoom reading of that. The Clamor Theater Company offered, and we're going to do it with half the New York cast and half the Florida cast. And we're going to do a Zoom reading of the new rewrites of it. So I've been writing, and my life, it didn't change much. I sit in this wonderful red room I'm in, and I write all day.
Red room.
Red rum. I know, totally. That's what I call it.
You feel the essence of Jack Nicholson there at all sometimes?
No, but everyone comes in and says red rum. I said, I've never heard that. I've never even thought of that joke. No, not at all. But I love this room. The rest of our house is very classy looking and very poo-poo and shishi, but this room had to be mine.
Yeah, and Willie in Holland posted a comment. She loves it.
I said I wanted to be the shaman's robe red.
Very nice.
I said I want the yogi's robe red, that Tibetan red. I said that's what I wanted, and he said let's do it.
It's like a deeper, real deeper color.
Very deep and very beautiful. And oddly enough, what I did sillily was I don't know if you can see behind me these.
Yeah, we can.
I bought red lamps with opaque shades that look great in the room, but because the room is so red and the lamps are so opaque, you can't read anything in this room after the light, the sun goes down, unless it's self-illuminated. You have to cram under the light to see it. But it's beautiful at nighttime. It's very warm and cozy. And it's one of my favorite rooms. And this is the guest room too. So when we have guests, it pulls out of bed. We were lucky. I got to tell you, what really changed my life after Fabulous Darshan is we won John and I won what we call the New York Housing Lottery. We got artist housing.
Wow.
So suddenly we went from the East Village, 3-4 walk up, 300 square feet, 1 bedroom. It was 2-bedroom apartment that was made into one. And they interviewed us. Literally, it was like it started in July. I applied. By January, they wanted our tax records. By April, they were visiting us. By May, they were giving us an offer. And the house will always be 30% of what I make. It will never. And suddenly that frees you up.
It does.
In this town, it's a gift. And I was working at volunteering for cancer places, a place called Miracle House. And I met a lot of people who need to come up here and do therapy. And I'm like, come on up and use my red room, because God gave me a red room. And if I don't let people use it, He's going to take it away from me, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I literally walk. I call it the estate. I walk down our one hallway at night. I said, I've got to walk the grounds, John. And I call it the estate, but I also think whoever was up there, it changed. That changed my life.
Absolutely.
In Manhattan Plaza or
Yeah.
those places, you suddenly can be a performer. I mean, when I did Fabulous Darshan, I was working a 45-hour week at a very large religious nonprofit, which will go nameless because I was fired there. By the way, I was fired from most every job, so except for theater. But I would come home at night and write an hour, and I have to be in bed by 8 because I had to be up by 4 because I had to be at the job by 7, and it was relentless. It was a rigor, and but now I have no excuse. I'm not writing, so I've been using my time. I think we talked of the Eliot New York stories, immoral, illegal, illicit. My co-writer Jeff Zemansky is a wonderful journalist, and he is a mad reader. And he gave me a book, an autobiography of a man he called himself a eunuch. He was a transsexual from 1895. He wrote a 2-volume autobiography about how he would be up on 58th Street as a boy, bury his wallet, then turn himself into a woman and walk 14th Street. And there was a group called Circle Hermaphrodite in a big gay club that's where the Village Voice building is now on Bowery. It was the Alienist, and they had a group where transsexual men could meet. There've been a couple of plays written about it, but in New York Eliot stories, we have a guy named Eliot. There's always an Eliot in every skit, and Eliot's looking for his gay DNA. You know, we can't swab our mouth, and so he talks about the history of New York City, and we kept it really fine-tuned to men in New York City because I didn't feel like I had the right to write about the complete LGBTQI experience. And we found that the only way we were tracked was by crime records and by newspaper articles or by articles about the church who were anti. And so he said, what would you think of writing this large piece where these series of skits will use 8 actors and one will play Eliot, and in every scene will be an Eliot. And they're the nobodies. I always say Eliot's no one's famous. I think we spoke about this earlier. He's just the gay person who was across the hall when you were in New York who had a cravat. And he would go, hello, Robert, even though you never introduced yourself to him as Robert ever. It was always Bob, but he always would use your formal name. And he was an Eliot. He was a gay man who survived and thrived, but blended in without standing out too much. And I learned also something fascinating. It was illegal to be a homosexual in New York City up until 1980. I mean, that sort of is one of those things that make you go, what? So this downtime has been actually lovely for me and Jeff. He has been not working. He's a very skilled personal assistant. So he's been home. So we've been on the phone typing like a fool. You know, I have a double screen. We go on Zoom and he's like, we've got to check this. We've got to add the ending. And we literally go through the decades with black and white and Latin. And it's not, they're not always pretty gay men. You know what I'm saying? They're not positive. All of them are not positive examples. The cutthroatness of a closet gay man, like Roy Cohn, you know, or Ed Koch, you know, the way there was a cutthroatness, or Jim McGreevey, the governor of New Jersey, who came out very late.
New Jersey, yeah.
First ones to cut any equality. And I'm a big constitutionalist. If it says equal, it means equal, bub. And that means everybody. Red, yellow, black, or white, orange, tall, LGBTQI, RSVP. That's what the word means. And we're still trying to understand it as a country. That rose is still blooming, you know, and we're seeing a huge amount of change right now. Mm-hmm. And I think it's for the good, but all birth gives pain. And, but so we're writing these Eliot New York stories, and we're just we were amazed to find out how many laws. In the 1690s, you were burned to a crisp in Manhattan, or you were deboweled. and put into a swamp. And they were very clear. But it was fascinating to see when the first police raid was on a gay bathhouse in 1905. I didn't know there were gay bathhouses anywhere in 1905. This city is riddled with sin, I tell you, riddled. But so it became fascinating. So we started to write these little vignettes that hopefully will build up. And it's about a 300-page piece. And it's like the Woodstock piece we wrote. We didn't apologize for its length. Like, this is epic theater. You want event theater? This would be worth your $285 seat ticket.
Right.
That is what we're going to give you. And we're not going to give it in 2 nights. You're going to see it in 1 night, but it will be 3 hours long. And so it's been fascinating. And also to go back to our young ages, to remember our younger selves and where we were in our coming outness. We're both men of the same age. And I said, we've got it. And then the neatest thing was to write for the millennials and the Generation Zs in 2015. And what are we writing about? So I'm like, I think we need to talk to some millennials. And so we basically did that. I just started volunteering with younger people and started hearing stories. So I was like, okay. And so I didn't want to make it be stuck with just one generation. So it's been fascinating. And like I said, these 8 men will play close to 45 roles a evening. So including the end of Act 1 is the Stonewall Riots, played by 8 men dressed as cop uniforms. They will play the cops. They will play the men inside the bar, the Flame Queens. They will play the gay men watching. They will play the cops inside the bar. They will play the riot cops with the shield. They'll play the people watching. They'll play the lesbian who throws the first stone. They'll get to play all of them. And the Act 1 ends, that whole scene ends with the first gay pride march that was done on Fifth Avenue. And I think what touched us all, which is in the play, was there was only like 200 people showed up. It was called Gay Liberation. And they thought only 200 people would show up, and it ended in Central Park. And the people who were there first climbed on a rock, and they said, let's look and see how many people there are, because there were all these people in Central Park, and they couldn't believe they were gay. They looked down Fifth Avenue, and they could see nothing but people. And they started to weep, because they said, I didn't know there were that many of us. And I thought, oh, what a lonely existence that must have been, and so that's how the Act 1 ends, with them and all do it in a cop uniform. So they're playing the Flame Queens, they're playing the boys inside the bar, they're playing the cops, and it's all quite fascinating.
Marianne Kelly in New Jersey says, wow, 45 roles without cloning. What an accomplishment.
But if you think about it, Angels in America is only 8.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel sorry for the gal who always played Harper, because she had to play a man. Remember in one scene, she had a comb over, complete makeup, a bald cap. And I was like, these kids aren't playing. The only person who didn't double up was Prior Walter. Everyone had to play somebody else. I said, that's what taught me. I was like, Tony Kirshner taught me, if you want to write something wild, you better do it cheaply. And Joe Mantello was the original Lewis in that from my school. Which we were all very proud of him. So I learned to keep your cast small and make them work their asses off.
Absolutely.
So I've been doing well with that as far as the epidemic has been, the pandemic. How have you been doing? Have you are any friends ill? It's in our building. We had some people in our building get it.
Oh, yeah.
And how are you?
We're very lucky, family, friends, everybody good. I mean, I know of people who've lost. I mean, Terrence McNally and there's been, but we've been very, very lucky, blessed. You know what I mean? We're doing the social distancing. We're wearing the masks. We're doing everything that should be done if we want to sort of, get past this. You look at the areas where they didn't do any of that, and whoosh.
You know what? I jokingly said to my little brother in Georgia, I was like, thank you for your sacrifice. I said, we're in a petri dish called New York City. We're not even like Chicago or LA. We can't hop in a car and be in our own biosphere. We have to deal with each other. So we had to stop
everything.
And so we committed to that. And I was talking to some kids at AMDA, and I said, we can do this. I said, I lived through the AIDS epidemic. I lived through Hurricane Sandy. I lived through 9/11. This is nothing. We're New Yorkers. 4 months from now, we'll be back. I worry about Broadway, though. I think that'll be one of the last things. But the 1918 flu, since I had to study that time with gay men, 3 years before a Broadway show came back.
Yeah.
Now, but that was the only thing they had. They had to do Broadway.
Right.
What I fear is that we're going to go into a Zoom place. And I'm like, no, we need to go back to live theater again. Television's television, movies are movies, streaming, podcasts are podcasts, but theater needs to be live again.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. To get the full feel and effect. Let's talk about one of your pride and joys, which of course is this fabulous Darshan. What was the premise for those not familiar with it? Tell us a little about the backstory and what it's all about, and the wonderful response that you've had to this production.
Like I said, I started writing it in the mid aughts, like 2006, 2007. And of course, technology was changing so quickly that I'd go from a landline to a cell phone and rewrites. And I started to deal with younger men than me who had cell phones where I didn't. And I realized they're living off of that world. And so I initially wanted to write something really like Angels in America, epic and huge. And I wrote probably one of the most intimate stories about my gay mentor. There's a wonderful actor, a Broadway actor named Ken Page. He knows of the play. He saw it. The character's name is Ken, but not Page. It's Ken Satchel. And he is mentoring a young man named Stu. I made him a trust fund, and I moved the story up to 2011 so that it could sit in that space. And also, I was old enough that I had younger men, ushers underneath me who I could speak with and talk with, and they would ask me questions and things that I would ask Ken. As I had an older gay person who was platonic, but how it's silly, but I had to ask intimate questions that only fathers and sons should share with each other. And I don't know how gay men find these answers. I mean, there's porn now right on your websites, but that's something in the last 10 years. And I would literally have to sometimes ask him. And also, his home became a sanctuary way up in 103rd in Central Park West, overlooking the park. And he would invite me up after one of his shows, and he would sit me down and say, I'm going to play you Valley of the Dolls. He taught me camp like I didn't understand it. He said, I'm going to play you Mommy Dearest. And he would set the whole thing up and tell you how the movie failed, what performance is good, who's in the show. And he'd sit down and go watch it. And he just handed me things. He said, have you ever heard of Bricktop? Do you know who Dorothy Dandridge is? And I'm like, no. And he's like, and so suddenly an older man, a man of color, was handing me things saying, you need to learn these things. And so I wanted to write about that. And in my play, he has a character in his head who's the god Ganesha. And it's played by an actor in a Ganesh t-shirt, because that actor will also play his agent Moisha, will also play a club kid, will also play multiple roles, including Ganesha. So he plays a reality show star wannabe, like a second generation kid from Hollywood who wants a reality show. And so he's always has this Ganesh character talking to him. And it's always in Indian music, but it sounds like New York sounds. And he likes this kid and realizes he should mentor him. And he has an older friend who I based on Tommy Tune and Andre DeShields, someone who would wear full-length fur, an award-winning director. And that would be his older friend. So I was passing down the generations of gay men to sort of protect you. And it went, I think the neatest thing was the second night it clicked. And that was when a reviewer was there, and I was terrified. I yelled at the producer, God bless her. She was Kellyanne Burns, such a wonderful producer. You can't have any reviewers. It's the second performance. That night, it blew off the stage. And he walked out with a rave, and that was Martin Didden, who constantly pulled me to his bosom and pointed me where to go. And I think also the neatest thing was when Ken Page actually saw it. And that was, to me, my most nervous, because, and I had told him what I was doing so that he would understand. And so he sat and watched it, and he liked it a lot. But I think what really touched him is that one of the actors in the show was young and walked up and said, "Mr. Page, can I introduce you to my Ken? This is my singing teacher. He always makes me tea and tells me to calm down when I come into his classes." Or, "Mr. Page, this is my Ken, but she's a woman, and she taught me how to be a lighting designer." And he was very touched, and I was very touched. Every time I think of it, I jokingly said, what Gypsy Rose Lee's son said about watching Gypsy opening night. He said, "I walked in with my mother, who was a star. When the curtain went down, my mother was a legend." And I jokingly said, "Ken, when you walk in, you'll walk in a star. But when the curtain goes down, you'll be a legend." And he found that very charming. But he was very moved. And he didn't realize, he had no idea. I was just a young friend. And I said, "No, you were more than a young friend. When you moved to LA," he had done Cats. Mm-hmm. And I remember when he was about to audition when Cats was a big thing. He goes, "Is there anything in there for me?" I said, "No, it's all about dancers." He got old Deuteronomy. I'm like, "What the hell? What?" Wait. I went to that call. I was 9 hours at that call, and that's been a lifeline for him. I mean, he's done Deuteronomy for so many years. And he became a sanctuary. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you must have somebody older than you, a New Yorker, who maybe in radio, maybe in TV, who sort of you buddied up to and could be confident with. Did you have anyone like that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Several people. Yes. Yeah. Where you can just, regardless of the years put in or the experience levels, you almost become one, and you can share your hopes, dreams, desires, fears. Absolutely. Yeah. It's good to have somebody. It's like a mentor in a way. It's good to have somebody like that.
Very much. And it's, when someone was teaching me how to do an elevator pitch of the play, like, do it in an elevator. You got to do it real quick. And I said, it's about a middle-aged Broadway successful character actor whose life is turned upside down when he mentors a trust fund kid from Wisconsin with the help of an ancient deity and the choreography of showgirls. Bing! First floor.
Yeah. All that is just one floor.
Yeah. And because at one part in the show, Ken tries to teach the boy showgirls, the dance. I mean, he loved it. It's campy, and I love showgirls. I adore it. I think, and I love, and he was trying to teach the kid the dance. He said, "I'll never do the dance." And at the very end of the play, when Ken has left and moved to LA and left the kid to really, what happened to me? Ken moved away, and I had to grow up. My mentor went away, and I was like, "Oh crap! Now what do I do?
Now what do you do?
Where will my sanctuary be?" I had to make my home my sanctuary. Thus, the red room behind me. Mm-hmm. It taught me how to. Ken said, "Make an altar of things you find sacred, even if it's a playbill. If it's a stone or a rock or a seashell or a ring, memories, put an altar, light a candle to it. It's your life, and praise it." And he said, "You don't have to name, he said, we're gay men. We were kicked out of everywhere. We had to appropriate from everyone. India, Christianity, a little bit of here, a little bit of that, and kind of put it together." And that's what thing that made Fabulous Darshan very different. It was a gay man who had a spiritual bent, but he created his own. And one reviewer said, like all of us, we had to create our own religion because we were asked we were asked to leave. Mm-hmm. And so we could, and Ken had an altar. I think the picture you'll see that they're standing on has pictures, all decapods. That's actually the altar. Ganesh's altar, because he's a life-size actor, but that's what, and on it was pictures of Buddha and Jesus and Diana Ross and Madonna and the Virgin Mother. And so it was the sacred and the profane that Ken taught me. And so and I think he had one little altar, and mine's huge. I mean, I travel with an altar and set it up, and luckily I married a man who meditates, and he taught me how to calm the heck down. Because if there's anyone who needs to calm, he's like, you're a perfect person to learn meditation. So you're going to need this.
Because you're always thinking and creating. And matter of fact, let's go through a couple of shots here. Tell us about this one.
Oh, this is a play called A Memory Play. That actress there not only dramaturg and directed Jesus in a Beehive, she also directed Fabulous Darshan. That's Susan Isaac. And so I said, I'm going to write you a role. And I had been house managing Joe DiPetro's Over the River and Through the Woods. It was a memory play about his Italian grandparents. And he narrated it. And the audience loved it. And I said, I'd love to do this genre, but do it differently, kind of meta. And so it became about the guy kneeling is Trey Albright, who's playing sort of a version of me. And he's downstage and he tells the audience that this is a memory play. And he says, that he reads from his computer, something from the playwright's past that he's trying to make. He introduces his mother and father. They come out and wave to the audience. They're 25-year-olds. And he says, he asks them to leave. And he says, I'm going to make sure they don't marry each other because they had 30 years of hell. I'm going to make a happy ending play. I'm going to make a hit play. I'm making a hit memory play. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. And by the way, I'm gay. Oh, by the way, this is not a gay play. Oh, no. It's not a gay play. I'm just gay. But in the play, he'll stop the play and see them arguing. He'll jump in and you'll see where he got baggage from his mother and baggage from his father. And he'll just tap them out. And then at one point they start jumping time and saying, Robert, me and your mother got a divorce. And all of a sudden the playwright would have to say, I'm sorry, my writing just jumped 30 years. My dad is 65. Dad, you need to go back to the wedding day. And so they started to jump time and eventually the characters got away from him. And at times he would play people to save the producer money. So he played a cake cook who had made a wedding cake for the mother character, Judy, and who was obviously a very gay man who the father made fun of. And so he would play it to save money. So he'd go off stage and come in and then leave and have to watch his father make fun of gay people. And then his father might step forward out of the shadows and be 65 and they would talk about him being gay. And then they'd step back and they would always have to go back to that one motel room on the day they were married, waiting for a minister on Easter because the minister were busy till 5. And it was very meta and it really was very touching. And I think the neatest thing were moments when the mother character admits that the father fooled around so much that he stayed with her just to make his life hell. And the playwright downright goes, Mother, God. And she walks like out of her 1960s bright light into the darkness, into his shadow and says, well, what was I going to do? I had a high school education. I had 5 kids. You can't be really uppity about these things. And suddenly the husband from 20 years ago would come in and get his wife and go, you can be a real ass boy. You can hurt your mother's feelings. And he's like, it's my play. Whoa, no, stop. And so it was very meta. At one point he calls a blackout because he can't get them to leave. They won't break up. And in the dark, you hear them go, what is this? Mom, it's a blackout. All time, space is stopped. It's a blackout. And they're like, well, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And they're arguing. When the lights come up, he's changed his shirt. And he goes, 3 months have gone by. You know how you can tell? In theater, you change your shirt. And that became a running bit. Whenever we had a blackout, he had new clothes on to show a different time. So, and on the very end, he can't stop them. And he plays the minister who marries them. And he comes in and he realizes he can't stop them. And he thinks he can stop them in the wedding vows. And he does the wedding vows. But in the middle of it, he tells his mother, do you take him to cheat on you, embarrass you with other women, to be the laughing stock around other women, to have you wrongly confide with your children? And she says, I do. And he says to his father, take him to be your wife and to humiliate her and to do this and do that. And he's like, they're in love. He goes, I do. And he doesn't understand it. He does talk about a gay man that he can't approach. It's an offstage character. And he said, I learned how to lie to him. See how my dad lies? I could lie to my boyfriend. He likes me a lot, but, I'm not good with relationships. They only last 3 months. I'm the Patsy Cline syndrome. It all falls to pieces. And at the very end, you realize he's going to show up the play. He can't control it. But the guy, the offstage character, is going to drive him to LA, and someone's going to do one of his plays. And he's terrified. And so, and he calls a cue. Can we have triumphant music here? This is the end of my monologue, where I beam at the audience, and hopefully you'll have a slight tear. And they did. I got to deconstruct it and construct it at the same time. And luckily the reviewers got it. I was afraid they thought I was trying to be Tennessee Williams. And I was like, no. I was trying to talk about the earnest playwrights who try to do this. And by the way, the whole play was 65 minutes long, and it happened over 35 years. And so it was short attention span theater. So, but that went very well. And I wrote it for Susan Izat, who played Judy. And you realize Judy had a baby out of wedlock. And the gay man is the baby who drove the baby to the new parents. And you realize how they were all tied in, and how the husband didn't know, and how she wasn't a virgin. And she could take care of herself, though. She was not afraid of this man. And so it was a very touching story. And you realize they should never have married, and you don't want them to marry. But he says, I can't stop this, but I can shelve it, and I can live my life. And I'm actually terrified, because they taught me, it wasn't my relationships falling to pieces. It was me causing them to fall. So I wanted to write a gay character who was flawed. I never wrote a gay character who was mortified about being gay. I never, as much as I love Boys in the Band and that genre of, self-hatred, I admired them. I just am a generation behind that.
Of all the characters that you've written and developed, which one is the closest to who Bob Stewart is?
Probably Memory Play. Very much with my mom. My folks divorced. She hustled me through college, and they're gone. They're both recently gone. Luckily they left before the pandemic. But I remember great memories after doing a great ballet performance and stopping the show in front of my mother, and her never seeing a show with a full orchestra, her never seeing a ballet with over 40 ballerinas, and she was genuinely moved. And then going out to dinner with my friends at some, I don't know, Chili's or something in Winston-Salem. And all my friends were talking to her like she was a peer. They would call her Kathy. And that's a happy memory for me. And right after that, I moved to New York and struggled and worked and would fly down when I could see her. But those were happy times. And I think Memory Play would be the one that's closest to me. There's a lot of me in Fabulous Darshan. Mm-hmm. Well, his name is Stu, and my name is Bob Stewart. Mm-hmm. Not so much the self-loathing, because the boy in Fabulous Darshan openly says he's bi, and in the process of the play realizes maybe he's not. And also he's ashamed that he's a minority now. He was a white male, and he's like, I had everything going for me. I'm now a minority. And he tells this to a black man. Who's gay, who basically gets the biggest laugh on just one take. Really? Like, well, I'm a triple threat. I'm gay, black, and and he said, I'm all of these things, and basically calms him down. So a little bit of me is in Stu. There's not a lot of me in Eliot's stories, because so much of that was researched before we could write. I mean, reading that double biography, who would write their life story about being a transsexual? He was neutered in 1917, and it was his best day of his life, he said. He felt he was a woman, and he wrote 2 volumes. And Jeff found them. And we found these just lectures where the first words came from, homosexuals, where the first laws came from. So Avery Hopwood, you know that name? Mm-hmm. The great Avery Hopwood, he would party with Carl Van Vechten, who had, I say this truly, a Negro fetish. He was a big Harlem Renaissance guy. He wrote a horrible titled novel, Inward Heaven. So we know what that word is. and it became a bestseller, and everyone started coming up to Harlem. That book almost single-handedly started the Harlem Renaissance of white people invading a black neighborhood. And Harlem was where the first gay bars were. Cole Porter and Monty Woolley would drive up to Harlem to meet the black men in their limousines during Anything Goes. And it was a class place. You wore tuxedos. And somewhere in 1969, he became a white man. You could be black as long as you were kind of white acting. It became, we've only recently started to put our color into it, and our indigenous people and everyone into it. We're not just gay and lesbians. We are LGBTQI, and probably a few more letters there too. And I support all of that. So I'm very much into that consciousness development. I love to see, I write a great deal. Ken has a conscious change in Fabulous Darshan. Kip, the lead in my memory play, has a conscious change when he clicks something in his head. And I'm always fascinated at what makes someone change their spirit, change the direction. And that's what I love to write about. And more than anything, I'm from the Bob Fosse school: entertain, entertain, entertain. If it's a tragedy, it better be the most entertaining tragedy you've ever written.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So
let's talk about this group shot here. Tell us, when was this taken, Bob?
This was a reading of American Inheritance, that tragedy. That's me in the gray suit down front. On the left, in the denim shirt, is Tom Wopat. Above it is the wonderful Nathaniel Shaw, who's at Virginia Rep now, who is probably... We were the complete opposite people in the world. I'm a chatty. He's quiet. I've never worked better with another director outside of Susan Isat than him. He was lovely. He was patient. Kathy Searley, Angelica Page, Geraldine Page, and Rip Torn's daughter. That's Michael Rubenstein with Donna Trekoff, who was the general manager. And that was the cast after the reading. And Tom Wopat was a revelation, because American Inheritance is a tough piece. It's can we talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
It's a 90-minute tragedy, and it's about a retired military man who's kind of lost his mind, and he's in a private therapy study that's been privately funded about people who have had relationship with underage girls. And he's lost his mind about this girl named Angela. And his second wife has brought him into this place that would offer him therapy, complete confidentiality. When I was a young man, I was offered to go to New Jersey, a private study, to have sex with men who were HIV positive and sex with men who were not. And I would be paid $1,500. They were learning which pills would make you not get HIV positive on humans. So I knew, and it was private. And my friends were gagged. I said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not crazy. But I said, I wanted a private. How you find out why people molest children, or you sexualize children, is you must talk to them. But in this play, he's lost his mind. And in the play, there's a big lounge chair, a big recliner. He sits in it, and the whole cast is in 4 chairs. They never leave the stage from half hour. They are always present. And it's 30 years. And this doctor, behavior, is trying to interview all of them of why they kept it a secret, this Angela. And his adult son's a cop. And he found out 2 days ago about Angela, the truth. And he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. But they jump in and do 30 years of flashbacks. And at one point, Tom Wopat and the other gentleman who played his best friend had to play their 19-year-old selves, while their 20-year-old actor who played the cop had to play Tom Wopat's father in one sequence. And it was, so that inheritance, you could see the inheritance. It was very much about male entitlement. And this doctor is sort of like a cat with a bunch of mice. She loves teasing them. And she tries to get the lies out of them. They're all protecting him, and you realize they're protecting themselves. And on the very end, you realize what happened 2 nights ago for the son to realize about his father's relationship with this girl named Angela. and how mortified he was and how crushed. And in a tragedy, there's a treasure you lose,
Right.
and that's him. And on the very end, it turned into sort of a satra that a lot of this was part of what happens when he closes his eyes. And I would like Oedipus, I didn't want him to die. I needed him to be tortured. And so I left him in a state of dream. And so that everyone, not only are they watching each other on stage, they're reacting to each other's memories. And even the first wife who died driving around that night in 1984 looking for Angela in a car wreck, she's on stage, always in tears. She only has 2 scenes. But that event happened in my family. And so to understand it, I had to take it apart. And I found it, the person who was the perpetrator was the most beloved person in our family. The most charismatic, funny, gracious, terrific person. Had a temper, beloved uncle, beloved. And his
not the one you would expect, right?
And the woman he married kind of understood it and tried to explain it to me one day. And I remember thinking, this is going to be a play. And so it's not like Rashomon where you see one thing through 5 different angles, like that classic story, the Japanese movie. You see the girl in the well, and then you see the guy's version of the girl at the well, and then you see the guy looking at the girl at the well with the guy. You see everyone do it. It wasn't that. It was sort of, if they were about to go to a steam room, you might see the steam room first. And later in the play, you might see what's leading up to the steam room. So it was a lot of fun. Angelica Page and Tom Wopat. Wopat, I had never seen him. He was a good old boy. He was beloved. And I had no idea I needed a beloved character in the lead. I thought he was a villain. And here was this guy who was like, baby, I want to divorce you. I have a girl on the side. We hate each other now. I'm back from Vietnam, with the first wife. And so you got him. And suddenly the character wasn't a monster. Tom Wopat was a revelation. And what kills me, he kept saying, oh, I'm not really sure about all this. I'm not really sure. And he went out to the bathroom. He was like, I'm not really sure about the script. And his script was open and it had 27 different colors of markers in it. He had questions. He had notes. This man was a working actor. This was his, I'm not really sure act. And he did it was a role that could have redefined his career. Let me say it like that. Because we had no idea that putting a good old boy in the lead role, someone who you loved, who you were charmed by, how terrifying that would be. And me and the director looked at each other and said, my God, was this a happy accident? And that's what I love about this business. A lot of it's happy accidents. You can't build the chemistry between Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick from the producers. You can't cast that. That just happens. You can't cast the cast of Hamilton.
Right.
The synergy happens, that everything's in a place of perfection. So Wopat and Angelica Page, boy, what a fan I became of hers. Her and Wopat were sexy on stage. And these are people into their 50s. And they got to play themselves at 19 with no makeup change, with nothing. And every time he wasn't on, he crawled back into that lazy boy recliner. But that was close to me in the fact of the topic that it was in my family. And I wanted to write a topic of what keeps us together in a relationship.
Right.
You know how sometimes you have a wife or a lover and you protect them and the person is wanting to be protected, and you find a male can find a mission. I think there was a line in the play when the second wife was telling the doctor about why he cheated. And she said, if you try to be equal to a man and he doesn't have to do anything to have you, like he doesn't need your protection, he doesn't need your money, he doesn't need anything, he'll go out and find someone he can protect, even if it's for an hour. And that's when the play clicked. I was on the subway one night and so I saw 2 lovers together and this girl was touching her boyfriend's beard and studying his hair. And you could tell they were deeply in love. And he was talking. And she was just like, I don't know what a man looks like. She was just loving him. And I watched them and I thought, that's how they love. And And I realized that's why she kept the secret, that why she kept it, why everyone kept the secret. And that's the tragedy, is that they all were sort of enablers to this inheritance that I pretentiously called American inheritance. But so that was what that picture was about. And Wopat was wonderful. And I know he's going through a lot now. And Angelica Page also. The whole cast was Kathy Searley. They were all just terrific. They came in for 10 days and knocked it out of the park. And it's a hard one to get produced. It's a hard one to get produced. And oddly enough, that's how I met my producer, who turned me on to the Woodstock people. We did a spec script, and then I met my co-writer there, and then we started working on Elliot. And that same producer is very interested in Carol of Carroll Gardens, what we did with Karen Ziemba. And I met him. I was trying to sell him Fabulous Darshan, and he was like, "Yeah, that's okay." And then he saw this in a reading and went, "Oh my God, I love this. Can we talk some more about this?" And he hooked me up with Nathaniel Shaw, and for 2 years we worked, and kept calling him in saying, "Will you give us an equity industry reading? Would you do it? Would you do it?" And he finally did. And hard sell, but I was very proud of the production. I'm not saying it won't get done, but I'm proud of it. It's a tragedy.
Yeah.
But it's very entertaining.
But entertaining, right? Exactly.
There's 4 chairs and a recliner. That's all you need. 1 set of costumes.
That's and here's another one through. Tell us about that. I mentioned that in the introduction.
That's my first thing I ever wrote.
Yeah.
My friend Ricky Castillo, I moved up to New York with. We moved up to 158th Street, 1980, December of 81. We had just done Applause together in a Florida theater. And he said, "You want to move to New York with me?" And we went up and we moved in. We put all our stuff away. And 11 o'clock at night, we went down to look at Broadway. Like, let's look at it. And my favorite line to him was, "Ricky, it's only 6 blocks. We can work here. It's smaller than our campus." I mean, I was like, that's how naive I was. But he asked me to write this. I had an idea, and it sounds weird, and it sounds sacrilegious, but it isn't. It's actually a very loving play. It's about a hairdresser, pre-dawn hours, named Mitchell Pantene. He renamed himself after his 2 favorite hair care products, and his mother died, and he can open a hair salon in the bad part of whatever city you're in. In New York, it was the East Village. It's early dawn. He's drying a wig, a big old beehive wig, and all the boxes. He has to put your house in order. Jesus is coming. And he's listening to religious music on his boombox, the soundtrack of Ben-Hur. And he steps out of the hairdryer with the wig and tells the audience, "I'm the Lord Jesus Christ, and this is second coming, but you can call me Jesus." And before the act of God, when the actor was channeling God, this hairdresser was channeling Jesus, and the audience was an early customer. And so with the disembodied Mitchell Pantene, who he would talk to, he led the audience in a makeover. And what I did was dye your hair, and I tell a story about, I deconstruct Mother Mary. And then it was a one-man show. I played him. It was one Messiah show. And she would step in, and she would tell a story about her son. And she was a nice Jewish woman. Come to find out, she danced for a high priest. So I thought, wouldn't she be a great old showgirl? And so it was all in modern syntax. And she puts on Madonna's Like a Prayer, I'll Take You There. And we go back in time. And the director, Susan Isaac, said, "I want to set it in a hair salon. I want the audience to think he's crazy. And if you do it right at the end of it, they won't care." And so we dye the hair. We talk about the Virgin Mother. We deconstruct her. And then she comes in and tells the story. And we build a whole new goddess back up. And it breaks his heart. And he's a Messiah with Messiah complex. He got a little over attached to the world. And he's leaving heaven. And that's why he's escaped. And he randomly chose this one hairdresser who was taking a nap, who said something like, "Jesus Christ, how am I going to open the shop on time?" And through the whole play, and then he dyes the hair and plays the mother. He cuts women out of the movement, and he plays Mary Magdalene. She was never a prostitute. Pope Gregory made her one in the 8th century. I don't know if she was married to the man, but I know there were a lot of women in the movement. There were more than 12. I mean, I had to study this in Aramaic and Hebrew and ancient Latin. I was with rabbis figuring out the New Testament. The original word was not virgin. It was maiden. Virgin and maiden are two different things. And I got to deconstruct it, but it was loving. And it was about, so I got to cut women out of the movement play Magdalene. And then I got to blow the style out when I got to confront St. Paul, who keeps jumping into the body of the hairdresser, demanding Jesus come back to heaven. If it wasn't for him, you'd still be Jewish, And on the very end, he plays St. Paul's Last Night on Earth with a blow dryer. He turned himself into St. Paul. And the director was lovely. She would have me do visions under heat lamps. And like I'd come out of the Mother Mary, I think there's a picture of me with a towel around my head. And they would always be like a heat lamp behind me. So at the end of the scene, there might be a halo suggested on me. And she took classic images from Caravaggio. So at the end of Mary Magdalene, I was laying down like a Caravaggio painting at the beginning. That's me as Mother Mary. It was a stretch, but I pulled it off. I was 6'2". I was a big Mother Mary, and had big hands. And on the very end, he plays St. Paul. And when he plays St. Paul, he realized that St. Paul sort of made the movement. He was the autobiographer of the New Testament. And at the end, Jesus kind of realizes it's Paul's movement, not his. And he's going to leave, put the wig back on, get back in the hairdryer, and he's going to actually go to a place outside of heaven. And he puts on Last Dance by Donna Summer. And he says goodbye to the audience. And he says, you're going to make a lot of money because you just witnessed the second coming. You're going to get book deals, big ones. And it was done with a lot of love, a lot of what I call gay aesthetics. I learned from Charles Bush, that fun camp. There was drama in it. I also learned I wasn't a very good actor. I was a really good writer. And at best, I was enjoyable.
Right.
When the New York Times came, I was good.
Right.
But boy, God, I was like, I'm not Meryl Streep. Why did somebody tell me? I thought I was Meryl Streep.
Not even Jack Lemmon.
No, I was the best. I was the best at being a little more interesting version of me. And so, but I did it so I could do it everywhere. And I did it in Philly. It was one of those shows you could do we did it at the Duplex at 10 o'clock at night. I drag all my props up there, set up my makeup mirror and set up my hair salon, put on my wig, put on my cha-cha shorts, and they would play B-52's music. And I would sit backstage going, what the hell am I doing? What am I doing? I'm in a wig. I have hoop earrings on. I'm in cha-cha shorts, oh, what am I doing here? And every night I'd go out going, why? But luckily the New York Times loved us. And and the nicest thing he said, it was loving. And I never wanted to turn anyone off as much as I wanted to turn people on. And I never got to play Mitchell Pantene, but I think my biggest compliment, because, Jesus would talk to Mitchell Pantene to get to, how to cut the hair, how to dye the hair, how to blow the style out. And on the very end, Jesus puts up a mirror to the audience and tells them it's a power cut. Strong but flexible and high glamour. So it was. I had a very good director and dramaturg, Susan Isaac, and like I said, she said at the end, they won't care if you're crazy. They like you, they'll like you.
They'll like you exactly. I like the Mitchell Pantene. Good thing his favorite hair care product wasn't Head and Shoulders. That might be a whole other script.
Well, he had a number of names because I would write it, and then a new product would come out, and the old product would die. And they would, I think I referenced the Cher hair care product at one point. And he was like, Mitchell somebody. And I said, I need to stick with some classic names. Paul Mitchell and Pantene. That's it. And I was praying to God they would still be, in existence as I do the play. But it was always seen sort of like this, like an RCA Victor dog. People would kind of watch it, but then they would slowly get into it. And it was lovely. It was terrifying. I remember the night the Times were there, and they sent Gus Gustine down, and he gave me a pick of the week and raved and said, everyone's talking about Corpus Christi, but no one's downtown talking about this man who is deconstructing our modern religion at the same time with so much love and pathos. You can't take your eyes off of him. I mean, it was just a love letter. I need to thank that man one day. I know he still works at the Times. I had a friend there who goes, yeah, Gus is still here. I said, introduce me someday at a cocktail party.
Yeah.
Because if I did not get that review, I don't think I would have written another play.
Right. That was a catalyst for you.
Right.
Absolutely. A major moment in your life and in your artistic career, right?
Very much so. And I didn't know I could write. I was being a choreographer director and I was giving a lot of crap. And then you get fired when you can't fix crap. I said, well, I can write better crap than this.
Right.
And that's what I did. I had a wonderful teacher from NYU. She wasn't a teacher. She was my friend, Mila Churchill Barrett. She unfortunately died of cancer a couple of years ago. But she's the one she wrote a wonderful screenplay, African-American woman, a wonderful thriller, a paranoid thriller for Denzel. And I was so in love with the screenplay. And I said, oh, I've always wanted to write. And she was like, Bob Stewart, you're the loudest person I know. You always have a story about somebody. You need to just sit your ass down, sit your butt down and write. And she was why I started writing. She's like, usually the guy or the girl with their funny story at the water cooler, that's your writer. You've just got to be disciplined. And I think that was the hardest thing, is to watch. I have many boyfriends who were writers who couldn't stick to it. And I was always shocked by that. Like, oh, that's a shame. Stick to it. I'm not getting any younger, but I love the work. And I know I change lives when they see it. So.
And when you look at your body of work, as we've been sharing tonight, what are some of those things that in reflection give you the greatest joy and blessing to, other than, great review by the Times and things of that nature, but for you personally, when you get that feedback about how your work really impacts people and moves people and causes people maybe to think about life in a different way than maybe they were before, in a more loving, joyous, all-inclusive way. What are some of those things that bring you the greatest joy, that keeps you going to keep creating for the good of all of us, Bob?
Well, I write what I know. And the Carol Gardens was my neighbor named Carol. She was a curmudgeon. She was a baby boomer. And in 2000, she ran up my stairs, and she worked at night as a word processor for a law firm. And we became friends. We'd share smokes. And she said, I have cancer. And so for 15 years, I did not want to be her cancer buddy, because I knew Carol was lovely, but she was a crazy cat lady. And also she was incredibly pessimistic. She was a curmudgeon. But I became her 15 year to the cancer center. And I told her, so I'm going to write about this. I'm going to write about you. And she loved children's books. So the play is called Carol Gardens, like Toad of Toad Hall. And I think writing her, and she told me one time that, she was always impressed that I would devote myself to my art. And she wanted to do that with her art. She said, I'm going to die with my name. And so when I wrote the play, she has no more kin. The character is actually named after her fully. And the play is narrated by her cats, because she loved her cats. And of course, those are just 3 actors in very beautifully, finely tailored suits with vests who lounge on each other oddly. She knew all of her cats' star signs. She was an astrologist. And when the cats died, she would put them in the freezer, because she wanted to make sure they were cremated properly. So sometimes next to the ice cream would be a couple of kitties in a bag that she had not quite got to the, she was one of those great New York characters. And she said, I would die with my name. And I said, no, you won't. And I wrote Carol Gardens for her. And she had a great doctor who also suffered from what she had. And they would sometimes share steroids. Like they would let me leave the room. And they kept changing the cancer center. Like it was St. Vincent, then Beth Israel, and then was Presbyterian. But he stayed. He was a great blood doctor. And she had sort of a weird father relationship with him, and she could be incredibly kind and incredibly difficult. And even my partner became a caregiver for her. She passed in 2014. And so that, to me, her full name is in the play. The name of the cats are the name of the cats. The name of the doctor's changed a little because he's still alive. And it's truly a play about a curmudgeon who at one moment sees her life for one moment happy. And it is a cancer play, but she doesn't die in the play. She's managing her cancer. Because I don't know about you, but there are a lot of people in the AIDS epidemic didn't die. They managed their HIV. and I've met a lot of people with cancer who manage their cancer, and I wanted to talk about that, living with that. And I wanted to talk, I thought, would this be the funniest play ever? If the cancer was the biggest pain in the butt, the cancer person was the biggest pain.
Right.
And truly, that's where my heart is with Carol, because it's not me. I'm not in the play. There's a character named Scotty, who I based after one of the artistic directors who love my work visually. And I suffer a little bit of Asperger's. I worked for a doctor, and I'm slightly on the scale. I get very impatient quickly. And so I decided to come out of the closet, and I made Scotty sort of this lonely guy who becomes her helper that she kind of uses as a personal assistant until they have a blow up. And the play really is about her changing that one mindset. A good example of, and she was going through a lot and it was hard, but when we got this apartment, we said, Carol, we have some good news to tell you. And I said, we got the apartment. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry. I can't hear anything good about anyone today. I'm sorry. And I remembered my heart breaking, not because she wasn't listening, that's where she was, and that's what like I said, I always want to talk about the untalkable, sleeping. How would you abuse your male entitlement? How do you see the end of your life when you don't have a date just yet stamped on it? In the play, her two cats die. And so they have a relation with the audience. And the audience, by the way, is death. When you die, you step into the audience.
Right.
So I made the audience, like in Pippin, they are inactive. They are the watchers. And they always watch. And sometimes they don't turn off electronic devices, as the cats tell them. And that's what I'm proudest of, is getting to give her that moment when she finds some peace. And she finds happiness. And finds some sort of optimism.
Right.
Because she never found that before she left us. Life was a burden.
Mm-hmm.
Things were hard. People were awful. Friends fled. And I wanted to give her that. So that's my closest one. And that's the one we're going to do. Clamor's going to do, we just found out today, August 9th, Sunday at 3 p.m. With a wonderful New York cast and Florida cast. A wonderful Christopher Borg, who was in Charles Bush's Lily Dare. He was nominated for Lucille Luttrell Award. He's in it. He plays the cat, lead cat, and he also plays the cancer doctor, Dr. Mandy, who is a very large role. He's in it, and his partner also plays the other cat, Billy William, and also plays a number of other people. They're the New York cast. The cats are from New York, and Carol and Scotty are from Florida, and that's where Clamor is. And so they're going to let me hear my rewrites. And I'm sure everyone's sick of a Zoom reading, but it's going to be 3:00 on August 9th. But I'm happy. I'll be happy to hear the changes to see if they worked. And my producers were pleased to make the date. And so it's such a hustle.
Yeah, it is.
You got to love the hustle. And I know your resume. You've been a pauper, a poet, a pawn, and a king. You've been up and down, over and under, and one thing. And you know what I'm saying? I know your resume.
Sure.
And I'm like, and you're in it. And you're in it with a big heart. And that's what I loved about June. By the way, June took Jesus in a Beehive, nice Jewish girl. You know what she did? She took the first opening monologue and lyricized it as a patter song and said, is this what you're looking for? And I was like, you're hired. I love you. And
Irving Berlin wrote White Christmas.
Baby, and Easter Parade.
Right.
By the way, the only non-Jewish person who were in musical theater was Cole Porter and Jonathan Larson. It was a Jewish American experience. It was totally a Jewish American experience and gay Jewish American experience. That's what I was learning about. Jesus Lord, there were a lot of us. And how many of us, it very much so. Sondheim, Hammerstein's deep goodness. You have to be taught to hate and fear.
Yeah.
You go, good Lord, you were saying that in 46. That was a song they wanted cut out of the show because it scared the audience, and how he was such a pillar of righteousness.
Well,
and
A baby isn't born knowing how to hate. That's learned.
Right. And we're going through growing pains right now.
Yeah. A lot going on right now.
We are. And I'm happy. My dear writing partner was Freddie Walker Brown. Freddie Walker played Joanne opposite of Adina in Rent. That was her big break. And we wrote screenplays together. And I think she's taking Chicken and Egg Soup and she's trying to make a short film out of it. But she works all the time. And she is a dear friend. And through her, I met a lot of artists, African-American artists. So my life has I've never been in a room of one race, except when I'm with my family. My New York artist is Asian, and we're just artists. We're working, and we're working together, and
it enriches the creativity, and it enriches the collaboration, it enriches the scripts and the final productions when you have all these cultures and visions and dreams and experiences and upbringings brought together. It makes the total experience richer and deeper, right?
Very much. And also, sometimes you're called out quietly by friends. Like, I remember Freddie saying, I love you. And I know what you think or you just said is loving. But can I tell you maybe where that came from? That's actually a slave term. I said something about a big strapping man. And she said, the slaves who talked back got the strap. Got the strap. Right. And I was like, oh. And but you had to have someone say kindly, slowly tell you. And I would tell things about gay things to her. She would say stuff. I said, no. And we had a very mixed crowd, mostly all artists, but full of a lot of color. And I've only known that. I've never ever. I think Memory Play. An American Inheritance. In fact, Freddie read the role of Connie. We did an all-black cast because she wanted to read the role of Connie. She's like, I know I'm never going to do it, but I want to read this. So she got all of her friends together and she said, we're doing an all-black version of American Inheritance. And she got to read Connie. But she's been a champion of my work. And she's also a brilliant screenwriter. She has some, if she can get a couple of these films done, they're going to be like African-American Cat Ballou in Reconstruction time, like a funny, dark, political, but at the same time hysterically funny piece about smuggling guns for the Klan around a staff on a riverboat. She's written incredible stuff. I'm a big fan of hers. And, I'm lucky. I'm in a pocket of people, and we're all the same age. Some of us have been to Broadway, some of us not. But all of us are still in it.
That's right. That's the key. It's the resilience. It's the tenacity. And it's the love of what you do, because you're storytellers. You want to connect with people, understanding the human condition, and very communal, as am I with all of that as well, which is why I have this need to communicate and relate and to calm and to inspire through my work as well. So it's very, very similar, kindred spirits in that way. And that's what keeps you strong and resilient and trudging through all of the chaos and all of the things that go on in our lives and in our careers and in the world that we've chosen, which is very uncharted sometimes and very unpredictable. And but we love every second of it. And as much as we say, what a day that was, I don't want to do that again, you go in, you do it again because you love it.
And you know what I love is that I'm sure you've had this when you ran into a star and you get to maybe talk to them for 20 seconds and they leave you with a nugget. And you realize, when I was doing Darshan, that was about mentoring, but I realized acting is one of the few gigs that nowhere in IBM nowhere in Apple would I, as an early programmer, stand next to Steve Jobs. Only in acting can I hold the spear next to Ian McKellen. This is one of the weirdest professions, in musicians too, that you can be an early trumpeter and you can be right next to Dizzy, and you get that chance to actually ask or watch or observe. And 8 nights a week. I mean, the blessing of Charles Busch. I worked on the original Driving Miss Daisy, but before it won the Pulitzer, before I'd seen it with Dana Ivey, Ray Gill, and Morgan Freeman. but I managed it, house managed it after I left Vampires, and it was with Francis Sternhagen, Morgan, and with Ray Gill. And then Arthur French was in it, and just amazing cast. But watching that show night after night with skilled artists such as Francis Sternhagen and Morgan Freeman and Ray Gill, that was an honor to watch them age from 70 to 90 in 90 minutes, and to talk with Alfred, who wrote it. Everyone talks to the house manager off Broadway because they're the only person sitting in the lobby. So, playwrights come in and they go, "Hey, Bob, how you doing? How's the house tonight?" "Oh, it's okay. It's all right." And Alfred would tell me stories. He told me beautiful stories about Daisy, about why he wrote it and how he was a freedom writer. Holt Colburn is really Hank Coleman, who got to see the production in 1990 in Atlanta, and he was almost 100. I mean, it was just, and he said, I'd never written a play before. He was 54. And they called my phone. I'm 24. They called my phone and said, "Hello, this is Columbia. We'd like to announce that Dr. Miss Daisy has won the Pulitzer Prize in theater." And so I know what that phone call is like. So I now know what to expect if it ever comes my way. But I was like, "Can you hold? You have the wrong number, but don't have the wrong number. You're the right theater. But can you hold?" And click. And I'm like, "Ah!" And now we were running down to Richard Frankel, who produced producers. He was a company manager then, and going, "Can I talk to you? Can I?" "Bob, leave me alone." I'm like, "I need to talk to you now." And then I said, "I think we won the Pulitzer Prize." And he ran down to the phone, and suddenly we were from half a house to full house.
Oh, yeah.
And that was, and also the gloriousness watching them work every night. That very last scene when he's feeding her pie, and how they broke that scene down and how they distilled it. It was much longer, Alfred said, and they broke it down. And to this day, when I was in the lobby scratching out my plays, because it was 90 minutes, no break, so I had plenty of time to work. Sometimes it was stadium seating, so I could go in. The audience was high up, looking down onto the stage, so I could kind of peek in. And I used to go in to watch the last scene. And sometimes a friend would come by the theater. I said, come inside the last scene." They go, "Oh, I've seen it. I said, no, come in." They go, "I've seen it." I said, no. Watch the audience watch the last scene. And you could see her feed her pie. And she'd go, And the lights would go down, but they'd go down on their 289 faces.
Yeah.
It would just go. And it would be dark. And poor Ray Gill, who was the first one up for curtain calls, after that ending, lights up bright. He would walk out center. He would turn. He'd come down. He would bow, and then they would applaud. They were just like, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was really great. But I loved early in the run, people would sit in the chairs and say, "That's my grandmother."
Yeah.
South. I'm from the South. I knew all that area, right? "That's my aunt." And they would stop Morgan because you had to come through the house, and they would just want to talk. And it was that type of theater experience. And it was very, it was a classic sort of Step and Fetch It, an old jaded white woman, but kind of with a new spin on it, with her not realizing she was a minority too, and the brilliance of that, and how they would connect and how they couldn't connect, and it was uncompromising, and it was a little cliche, but at the same time new. And but what I loved that people, after a year run, people would sit in the audience crying. I'm sorry, we're closing the house. I mean, the actors would be like, "That's really great. I'm glad it reminded you of your dead aunt. Okay, bye-bye. I gotta get my cab." So we would get so jaded and forget that the audience was grabbing their heart and holding up. And "I'm sorry, we're closing the seating area. That's great. You've got to go. But that was a college lesson right there to watch characters. Right. My God, to watch them age from 70 to 90 without a costume change. In fact, they had two stools they sat on was the car. One of them is in my room. I accidentally stole it on strike. I painted it gold. It's right there. That's where Morgan Freeman sat and pantomimed his car. And when they did the tour, they're like, "Bob, we have two stools." and we broke it down. Do you know where the other stool is?
What's that other one?
Where that other one is. I feel bad about it. I didn't know they wanted it. I mean, it truly was in the trash area, but I didn't give it back. So it's an end table. I painted it gold. And I said, Morgan Freeman said on this. And that's my
and now they know.
Right. I know.
You heard it here on the Jim Masters Show.
I have a prop, and they're probably mad I have it.
So if you knock on the door at midnight.
I know. I've always felt like I would give it back if they really wanted it. I'd give it back.
Yeah.
But it's just a simple little, because they pantomimed it. It was just stools.
Right.
And he did the whole car thing like this, and he looked in the rearview mirror, and it was all, it was all pantomime.
Absolutely.
And gosh, was it a acting class? And to watch them do it 8 days a week, incredible. And to walk up to one of them and say, "You did something different when Hulk opened the door today." And Francis Turnhager would go, "Oh, you saw that? Oh, that's so great. Oh yeah, I did. He did see. I was doing something Bobby Lewis taught me in the actor studio about listening. He said something different, so I gave him a different look." But she turned into a 14-year-old girl. Right. How they would talk about their art, and it was an honor to watch them work. And what's sad, I did Vampire Lesbians. It ran 5 years. I was with it for 2. I went up to Daisy. It ran almost 3 years. It only closed when the movie came out.
Right.
In fact, Alfred won the Oscar and came and knocked on the box office window and put it there. And like, look, I won an Oscar for this. And I thought all theater was long runs. So when I came to New York, I thought, oh, you get a show, it's for 2 years. And then right after Daisy closed, there were like 50 plays in that theater that I managed, everything. And I had no idea that theater, I thought it was a long run itis. Because I was such a young man and I was a part of 2 hits, early on. So it was a beautiful lesson. Also, it taught me how to write. When you really break down those scenes, even Charles Busch's stuff, when you break down the precision they were working, their comedy or their bits, it was a lesson. And I feel blessed, to sit and watch that every night. And sometimes just to feel good, Well, like I said, I wouldn't watch them. I'd watch the audience watch them. And I said, I want my plays to do that.
That's the beauty of it, right? Exactly.
The light go out on 289 faces, and they've changed.
Well, it sounds, you mentioned being blessed. It sounds like from the very early beginnings, even with that chance meeting with Bob Fosse all the way up, the blessings continue for you. And everybody is blessed by, the amount of intent and time and attention and blood, sweat, and tears and toil that you put into everything that you do. Probably maybe even going deeper and over and beyond what is the norm in terms of just the total attention. And want to raise a glass to toast you. You have your glass, my friend.
My bourbon.
You've got that's right. You come from Kentucky originally, so you got that bourbon. Here we go. Clang.
Thank you.
Was an extraordinary. Yes, you have to drink.
By the way, I found a little trivia about that. I found out that the Kings, the whole touching glass, you'd actually pour your glass into the King's glass, and the other King would pour it back, so you would prove in good faith you weren't poisoning each other.
So
we touch as a gesture.
As a gesture, that's basically right.
I'm saying, I will not poison you tonight, and you will not poison me. So
we have been far from poisoned. We have been pleasantly pleased by your gracing us this evening on the show, and it was a blessing. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
It was wonderful, and thank you for letting as my friend Freddie said, when I had a head injury and they thought I was going to pass out, and they put me on a gurney, and she said, "You can't pass out, Mr. Stewart." And Freddie yells to the nurse, "Ask him about one of his plays."
That's it.
Told one nurse every play I'd ever wrote. I thought she really was interested. So to come on to a show and to be able to talk about the work and why you work, and to talk about the self is magic too. And I thank you for that. You know, I mean, jokingly, yes, it is my work, but it's also, as you know, it's our heart. And it's children and art. Those are the only thing we leave behind.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Leaving new children in this lifetime, maybe a next one, but not in this one. So it's been a pleasure, sir.
It certainly has. Yeah. And I hope you found it enjoyable and comfortable. I try to make a comfortable and warm and inviting atmosphere, whether I do this show or in all of my professional work on PBS and everywhere else over the years. I just try to really make it warm and inviting and comfortable. It's not an interview. Yeah. It's conversation.
You said that to when I was to Austin or someone. I said, "Oh,
Austin Pendleton, right?"
You're like, it's a conversation, and that's different. I mean, an interview makes me nervous. A conversation did not. This was easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. That's a lot of Jesus in a beehive. So
yes, exactly. It was a pleasure having you, and you're welcome back anytime. And it was a great conversation. I think we closed the place.
Oh gosh, it is 9:16. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your audience, and blessings to you all. And I don't know how to leave this. Do you get rid of me?
I get rid of nobody. I'm a very horrific goodbye person. We got some nice comments coming in. Wonderful interview as always. And let's see. That is Linda Hutchinson. And thank you for your interview, Bob and Jim. Renee in Iowa as well. And Ernestine in North Carolina says, thank you for your interview, Bob and Jim. And let's see, there's Ernestine coming up. There she is, Ernestine in North Carolina. Says, very important interview tonight. And driving Miss Daisy was a masterpiece. Thank you.
It was.
Eileen in Australia, all inspiring and special guests. Thank you. Make it many interesting stories to share. And more comments coming in here. Ernestine says, thank you, Bob. Renee says, bless you, Bob. Which is really nice when you get a chance to. I'm very interactive, and I like to.
I love that. I forgot you do this. I do watch all of these, and I love that you acknowledge your audience. I think without them, baby, we're nothing.
Right, exactly. Great to be so passionate about the work, which I think is very important. Willie, who stayed up into the wee hours in Holland. Great conversation. Yeah, and just really loving it. And
thank you.
Yeah, this is really nice when you get a chance.
Jim, like I said, you make this very easy. And when June called me, I was in a panic. And then I watched and I realized I know him. Oh, wait a second, he'd been on PBS. And I just started watching all your back stuff and said, this is going to be a lovely evening. Even if it's 30 minutes or if it's 2 hours, it's going to be lovely. So, and thank you, Austin.
Yeah, everybody here. Nice comments here. So it was a pleasure. And real quick, what is a typical day now for you like?
Well, right now it's going to be about getting a readable version of Carol Gardens to the cast. Because, you know, at Zoom, you put your script up on the left side of the page and you talk to the camera on the right. And so that's sort of the next thing. And also we're still in the Elliot stories. You know, it's called that moment when you got to clean up your script so that someone else can read it. So all the typos. So we're going through it with a fine-tooth comb. And we really haven't written the last scene yet. We know what we want. But we realized, you know what's really spooky? That you needed an Elliot, another gay man to help you. But you know who the person who helps you now is? The web.
Mm.
So Elliot's obsolete.
Right. I
don't think he is. You can't tell me another human being is obsolete to another human being. But to learn what you need to learn about your life, you can look on the web, and that's sort of our ending. I said, we've got to come up with a more optimistic ending, but hopefully we'll be there. Thank you, Jim, so much. And that's what I'm doing.
That's what you're doing. Well, keep me posted. Hopefully we'll be past all of this, social distancing, and we'll break bread with June and all. We'll get together, dinner, and we'll catch up, and it'll be a wonderful time to do that.
Thank you, and you have a wonderful night. Do I hit leave the studio button here?
Yeah, I'll do it first.
Okay.
So So it's smooth. So it just, transition.
Yeah, I'm not Joe Tech, so I'm okay. Yeah. Listen, I got the lighting right. I'm pleased with that. That's all I do. I worked 30 minutes on this lighting.
You got the ring light, right?
Well, I did. My ring light is dying. Well, halo, but I just had a lamp, and I said, "Well, this is hot."
It worked.
But I said, I turned all my lamps on. I said, I'm okay with this. It's a little Chicago,
It worked. It worked, right?
With a hot spot. But so thank you. But thank you again. And you have a wonderful night, and blessings to you too.
You as well, Bob. We will hopefully see you in person real soon. Again, we'll break some bread, and best of luck with everything, my friend. It was a real blessing and an honor and a pleasure to have you on this show. We really appreciate all the time you gave.
Thank you. And good night to all. Good night.
Good night to all. Take care, Bob.
Bye.
Bye-bye now. Very special guest, wouldn't you say? Extraordinary. I love when we have an opportunity to really sink our teeth in deeply and get an understanding and true essence of the individual that we're sharing with you here on the show. And that's one of the things I've always loved to do in all the interviews. I think I've interviewed maybe 6,000 people on television and radio and on stage. And interviewing is just one of the things that I do in the industry, but it's something that I really enjoy doing. Because what I do as a host is I put myself in the position of the listener or the viewer. So I'm learning like you are as well. I don't say, well, I'm the host and that's it. I'm learning through the whole conversation and really listening intently and guiding it along. Maybe as the host, I keep the train on the tracks, but I'm all in like you guys are as well. And that's how you learn, and you have wonderful conversations like we did. And, the last couple of weeks, we've had some extraordinary conversations. They've gone extended, but, you're just rolling and you're having a wonderful time. I almost think it reminds me of sort of like the Dick Cavett show a little bit, or, some of those conversations where you don't really find this kind of thing anywhere else. Really even on television anymore, or on the radio, or on the internet, where you have an opportunity to have conversations like this. Again, this show is everything: lifestyle, entertainment. We do, even when there's nights where we don't have a guest, we go on location, we do fun segments, we do a lot of cool stuff. But when I do schedule and book interviews here on the show, we don't really like to just do, hey, where were you born? What are you working on now? What's next? What's your proudest achievement? The typical stuff. We just let it roll. And that's pretty much my style with my work on television and my work on radio when it comes to having to interview people. If somebody requests me and I'm tasked to do that, I really like to get to the core and everybody feels satisfied. Don't you feel satisfied? Don't you feel like you've really we've captured the essence of who Bob Stewart is? He's very passionate, and he's lively, and he's got a lot of energy. But I think you're left really understanding a little bit more about the guest, maybe a little bit more about your host, and maybe even if you connect to the guests and their conversations, you might even learn a little bit more about yourself, and maybe sometimes even see essences of your own self or people that you know in your life through these conversations, through the relatability of conversations like these. So it's enjoyable. And again, this has just blossomed on the Jim Masters Show live series with these extraordinary interviews and all the other levity and fun and cool stuff that we do here on the show. We've got a wonderful weekend of shows coming up as well. Viewer of the Week and all those fun things that we do as part of the format. We're going to go on location on Sunday, but I want to tell you about some amazing guests we have coming up this week. Matter of fact, we have this really cool individual who's coming up, Jean-Pierre, on Saturday, and he is a DJ, and he's a musician, and he's a singer, and he's an actor, and he's extraordinary. Saturday night, we actually have a guest. I think this is going to be one of the first times we've had a guest live on the show on Saturday night. But he was all excited, and I tried to look at the schedule because we're so booked, every day with shows already lined up and guests. And on location segments, and we're going to be doing more food, and I'm going to take you and prepare some food and just a whole bunch of stuff. So we move some things around, and on Saturday night, we'll still have that disco ball that we do. We'll make it, Saturday night fun that we always do on Saturday night, but he's going to be a guest as well. And I just want to show you. Oh, thank you for the comments coming in here. You do such amazing interviews, Jim. You're amazing. Your guests are terrific. I really appreciate that, Kathleen. I'm so honored to be a part of your show. Thank you very much, Margie. We're honored to have you here as well. And you make the people you are interviewing feel comfortable and let them be themselves. That's what I like to do. I like to be supportive and reassuring, and then they emote. That was awesome. Thank you, Martha. I appreciate that. Another good show. Thank you very much, Kathleen. And thank you both for such a great evening. Appreciate that, Renee. It is my pleasure to facilitate that and offer that to you through this medium of an actual entertainment lifestyle talk show series. I want to show you tomorrow night's guest. It's going to be a night of incredible music and great conversation. Tomorrow night, Mike Casey, saxophonist and musician extraordinaire, is with us tomorrow night, and he's going to be performing live. That's right. Great conversation. He's a dear friend, actually. I've seen him in concert, and he's in the New York tri-state area. And he just came back not that long ago from Spain and Barcelona. He's a graduate of the Berkeley School of Music, but he's really talented and is a cool cat. And he's going to be live, Mike Casey, tomorrow night. That's right, tomorrow night, Thursday. So don't miss that. And on Friday, more incredible music and entertainment. Bob Kinkle, who was part of Trans-Siberian Orchestra and so much more, an extraordinary musician and great guy. And Dina Fanai. Dina Fanai is going to be with us, and she's a breath of fresh air. She's a dear friend. Her voice will make you melt. She was a background singer for the group Foreigner, as well as Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and so much more. And she's a solo artist, and she's such a spirited, inspirational, deeply loving person. And she's going to be with us, with Bob, together live on Friday night, this Friday night. We're going to have a great conversation. She's going to be performing as well. I also want to let you know some exciting news coming up soon. You see that face on the left? Mm-hmm. Do you remember the holiday movie, A Christmas Story? Yes, that is the kid that got his tongue stuck on that pole in the cold in Cleveland. Yes, that's Scott Schwartz, very talented actor in not only A Christmas Story, but he was also in Toy Story with Jackie Gleason and Richard Pryor. That's right. He's going to be on our show. He's a brilliant actor in some of the biggest films, Toy Story and A Christmas Story and so much more. There he is then, and there he is today. He's going to be joining us in a couple of weeks. Also, Sean Kanan. You may remember him from the soap operas too, Young and the Restless, and I believe General Hospital and One Life to Live, and so many others. He's a fantastic, talented actor. He lives in California. Sean Kanan is going to be joining us here on the show as well, which is really exciting. Also, Ann Hampton Calloway, phenomenal performer, singer, and just a beautiful person. She's going to be joining us on this show. Cindy Williams, brilliant actress, funny as heck. You remember her as Shirley Feeney from Laverne and Shirley, and so much more. She's going to be joining us in the coming weeks. And these are just a few of the people. Sean Wiley, another dear friend, interviewed him multiple times on public television from Under the Street Lamp. Brilliant choreographer, singer, and performer. He's going to be with us as well. Danny Bolero is going to be joining us coming up too in just a matter of days. He is a sensational actor, film, television, commercials, and so much more. Danny Bolero is going to be joining us here in just a few weeks as well. So is Rita Cosby. Rita Cosby is going to be with us on July 6th. July 6th, 7 p.m. Eastern. She is a very well-known and respected network news anchor, radio host, and so much more. And she's going to be here with us on the 6th of July. Next week, Lionel Kitchen is going to be with us. Dear friend, known him for years. He is the president of the Happiness Club, and it's an international organization. Just look at his tie with all the smiles on it, and he is incredible, and it's an incredible organization too. And he's going to be chatting with us. That's going to be next week. Actually, he's going to be with us next week here exclusively on the show. So those are just some of the many, many guests that are going to be joining us here exclusively on the Jim Masters Show Live. We're going to wrap things up. I still have a spaghetti dinner sitting over there. It's on a tray near the set here, and it's going to have to be reheated. I only got a chance to eat some of it before we went live. I started eating its spaghetti and meatballs and a little bread there. And it's a little late at night to have that kind of stuff, but we're going to have it. Very hungry. It's been a busy, busy day. Tomorrow I've got a busy day of radio shows to host on Close Up Radio. And then we're formatting this show and talking to some more of the guests that are coming on and getting our shows set up for the week and weekend. And then I have a television shoot actually with Close Up Television on Friday in the morning. I'm going to be interviewing somebody on Close Up Television, which is out of New York. I've been with them for years. Just one of my professional, one of the things I do professionally. So we're going to be doing that Friday morning, and then we'll be back here Friday night as well at 7 p.m. So we're here every night for you, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Jim Masters Show, streaming and simulcasting live and worldwide on YouTube at Jim Masters TV and on Facebook at Jim Masters TV. Share the links, tell everybody about the show, and have watch parties. I know Renee has had several watch parties. Thank you, Renee. And so many of you have as well, all around the world. And remember, I might be the host and star of the show, but I think you guys are the stars as well. You and you and you and you and you. Love, light, levity, lovity. And don't forget, as we always say, relax, breathe, love one another. Take time for yourself too. If you're somebody who's always a caregiver, you're always giving for others. And I've fallen into those traps as well. Oftentimes we've had conversations about that with some of our guests. Take time for yourself. It's not selfish to take time for yourself every once in a while. So relax, breathe, meditate, listen to music, go out and garden, toss a Frisbee around, walk along, a forest or a coast or whatever you can do. Get out and breathe and move the body, exercise, whatever you can do. Go make an apple pie, whatever it takes, whatever are the things in your life that bring you great joy. Call a loved one, see how they're doing, check in on a longtime friend. I do that. Childhood friends, we're still friends all these years, checking in, see how they're doing in their family. So breathe, relax, celebrate life. We are here today, right now. And I tell you, that is the icing on the cake. There are people who were here, on the planet yesterday who are not here today. So we are right now. So breathe from the diaphragm, smile as often as you can, laugh as often as you can, because that releases those feel-good endorphins. And that's very good for mind, body, and soul. So all your friends, Silver, Jimmy, George, Burns, Jeannie, the whole crowd, even though Jeannie's still in Baghdad with the family, we wish you a very good night. We say thank you very much to you and you and you and you and you and you and all of you. A few more comments coming in, and then we'll wrap up, and then I'll go have that spaghetti and meatball dinner. Starving. Hopefully Silver doesn't get at it. Have a great night, everyone. You're welcome. Thank you very much. We will see you back tomorrow night with saxophonist Mike Casey. It's going to be a great show. And then Dina and I, musicians and singers with Bob Kinkle, they're going to be here on Friday. It's going to be great. And then a special guest on Saturday. Good evening, everyone, and God bless everyone. You as well. We had pizza. We picked up in another town. I went with my daughter and brought it home for supper. Really, really good. Fantastic. Everyone have a beautiful night. You as well. Good night, Martha in Michigan. And you had spaghetti and meatballs for dinner too, right? I tell you, great minds certainly think alike, wouldn't you say? Ernestine says she loves saxophone tomorrow night. You remember Sean Kanan from General Hospital? That's right. He was he AJ Quartermain? I think he was part of the Quartermain family, right? Yeah, he's really cool, and he's going to be here. He's all excited. Yeah, he's all excited. We spoke on the phone 2 days ago, and he said, "Hook me up, man. I want to get on the show." He's following all my social media. He clicked into my Twitter, my Instagram, the Facebook, on the YouTube, everything. And he's so excited about this. And we're going to be showing some really cool stuff and having a great conversation. It's coming up a couple of weeks, so I'll keep you posted. Yeah, Sean, great on General Hospital. Can't wait. He's going to be with us too. And again, Scott Schwartz, who was the kid in Toy Story, A Christmas Story, and so many other productions. He's going to be here as well. And again, the nights when we don't have guests, it's you and I. I love hosting this party every night with all of you as well, with the fun segments that we do. We have some more fabulous on-location stuff coming up soon too as well. You have a lot of great shows lined up, Jim. Looking forward to seeing them. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It is my pleasure to host and produce these broadcasts. So for everybody, you have a great night as well, Kathleen. And I think we've checked in with most of the folks here. And yep, he was a Quartermain. I think it was AJ Quartermain. But that's cool stuff. So really cool people coming up. And of course, the show mainly is about us. Everybody else comes into our environment. I invite the guests in and they come into our world. But the show is really you, the viewer, and the loyal, faithful fan of the show, and myself, with the rest of the cast of characters here as well. So, gang, thanks for being with us on this episode. We appreciate you. You're a blessing. We love all of you as well. Continue to spread the word. The show has really taken off like a rocket, and I can't believe it. And trying to provide some light levity, some entertainment, information, education, and some good times as we broadcast here on the show. So for everybody here, Jim Masters thanking you for your time. This time until next time, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific tomorrow night with our special guest, saxophonist and musician, Mike Casey. Good night, everybody, or good day if you're just starting your day. We love you all. You take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Be well. It's time for my spaghetti and meatballs. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.